Hey guys, welcome to Little Blackbird 91. We're talking to you guys today about two distinct topics, very different from each other. One, we're going to give our thoughts on Derek Jackson for about half an hour, 45 minutes, and then we're going to talk about our main topic, which is, I guess, why do women test men in relationships? Whether you agree with that statement or not, maybe women don't test men in relationships. We've got a little clip that we're going to play for you guys when that time arises, to inspire some key dialogue. But I'm not going to do it alone today. I'm going to be joined with some fabulous guests from the UK shores, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. I'm going to go straight from Big Man Jay, and then we'll go around from JR to Charlene to Jeff. Introduce yourselves, let them know who you are, and a little bit about yourselves if you want.
We back! Yes, it's Jay Anderson here with a UK panel. I've missed you. I've missed everyone. Even in the chat. I mean, I've been seeing what's been going on, and generally I've missed all of you. I've missed this, so I'm happy to be back. As you see, my actual name is Jason Anderson. I have a ministry called Kingdom in Need of God, Kingdom Need of Greatness. It's a men's ministry. But some of you know on the channel, when we're really talking about things, I try to look at things from a counseling point of view, just what would make the relationship work. I try not to be biased. I'm not saying I haven't been, but I try not to be biased because I just want everyone to just be happy, be at peace, and get along. But I love all of you. Welcome. I'm happy to be back.
Love that.
Yeah, I'm JRX TV. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, I'm so happy to be back right now as well. It's been a little break. My man Kojo was out in the States doing his thing, but we back. Catch me on JRX TV on YouTube and also on IG. And yeah, got my exercise, fitness, PT stuff going online on Instagram. And also I do lots of commentary and watch a few TV shows every now and then when I get the chance to, and review those too, give you my opinion. It's not everybody's opinion, just my own. So, you know, hopefully we can respect each other in the chat and keep the conversation flowing.
Go for it, Charlene.
Hi, everybody. I'm Charlene, the Vocal Alchemist, and I help you to use your confident voice to make money.
Thank you, Charlene. Jeff.
Jeff?
Yo, what's up, everybody? Good to be back. It's Jeff's Avenue, budding spoken word artist, and also, budding spoken word artist and budding rapper as well. Yeah, Jeff's Avenue here, and yeah, like producing content and stuff, so it is what it is.
Love that. Thank you. All right, cool. So let's kick off the show. We're talking to you obviously about Derek Jackson first, because I know you guys had some thoughts. I just did a live 2 hours long, but love to hear you guys' thoughts on what you thought about the Derek Jackson situation with his latest interview. What did you guys make of that particular interview? He done two, obviously, but you know, you guys can talk about what you felt about either one and the interaction that he had and what the truths that he spoke about and him being quote unquote transparent. You know, want to get your thoughts on Derek Jackson's interview. What's your thoughts, ladies and gentlemen? Whoever's passionate should go first. And that person is Jay. Miss Anderson, talk to us, sir.
I'm gonna keep it relaxed, right? So let's put this out of the way. No one is condoning what he's done. No one is saying what he's done is okay. No one is justifying or excusing anything he has done. But in order for us to learn, in order for us to understand, we have to allow people to speak their version of the truth. His wife or ex-wife, I don't even know what the status is now, was given the same respect. So, you know, let's listen to what he has to say. Because we all know a lot of these things come from past trauma. And to me, he was just explaining his side of events, how he felt because of it. And he wasn't even minimizing his decision making. He was just talking about it. However, I do understand, because it's him, people ain't really trying to listen to him. People ain't trying to take on board what he's saying. And in fact, not even just because it's him, I'm going to cause controversy, but because also he's a black man. And we all know, in terms of the history of how we have treated women, I fully understand how we are viewed. So there's an extra vim that's going to happen. I get it. I don't disagree with any of it. I fully understand it. But to talk about, I guess, the interviews directly, I mean, I think the Willie Moore interview was rubbish. I think Willie Moore needs to do a completely better job. I also agree with you, Kojo. I think he did actually watch it. He was just capping for his friend, basically. But mainly because I guess I can see he relates to Derek in a way based on whatever he did or didn't do in his own marriage, which obviously that wasn't the place for him to speak on it. So I can understand why he didn't want to address certain things. And I think that's the difference between him and someone like Lateras, who you can see the journey of healing that he's gone on, and then being in a place to be able to address certain things with Derek. And I find that absolutely amazing. 20 minutes in, I felt 20 minutes in was better than the whole interview of Willie Moore Jr. Now, to address Derek specifically again, he's a charming guy. We all see why ladies still love him. But he's like a robot. He is like a performative robot that is still pandering in the way that he speaks. He continuously sounds like a motivational speaker. Now, don't get me wrong, he sounded less of it on Lateras' podcast than Willie Moore Jr., but I mean, there's still something missing for me. And I feel like he needs a long time of proper therapy in order to allow himself emotionally to get to the place that he needs. I don't feel like his emotions have matched up to understanding the consequences of his behavior, which to me means he's going to continuously do the same thing. He can get with someone else, that's fine. He's going to do the same thing. He's got way too much work to work on himself, if I just made sense. It's at a point now where it's like, all right, cool. This is what you need. So let's well, I guess do what you can to get it. I mean, he said he wants Christian counseling, Christian advice. He already gave his life to Christ properly in 2020. I mean, he didn't technically change his behavior, but I mean, it's going to be a journey and a half. I feel both of them need some serious years of just being on their own and really just being able to excel, because it's just an absolutely toxic mess. That's me, bro.
Who's feeling it? Who's feeling it? Who wants to go up next? Share their initial thoughts on this interview.
I'll go.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what Derek reminds me of? He reminds me of guys that I've come across that have been cheating on their women or things of that nature for so long that they're just desensitized to it. And, you know, he may be the type of person to express remorse in private. We never know. He may not feel comfortable being emotional in front of people. But when I listen to him, he doesn't really feel much. It doesn't feel like he feels that much. And he's kind of the perfect quote unquote motivational speaker, because he doesn't allow things to really get to him. And one thing that he said in his interview is that he never really allowed women to get close to him. I don't think that he allows people to get close to him at all. And I've said this to you guys in private. My thing with him, when he has repeatedly said things like, you know, I'm the big brother giving advice. That's not how you positioned yourself, sir. You positioned yourself as the expert. And if he had positioned himself as a dirty brute who cheats on his women, then that would have been different. But I think that because he positioned himself as the expert, we expect him to not be perfect, but dang, just live your talk a little bit, like at least. And so it's a real issue, you know. But I'm reserving a lot of my opinions till I've seen part 2. But yeah, I want to see him feel a little bit. I want to see something. But we'll see. We'll see if we get it.
Yeah, I would say I've seen the interview, and my issue with Derek Jackson is always the same issue I've always had with him, is that he is someone who panders a lot. And the issue becomes when there's a big difference between pandering and understanding. And sometimes the audience, which the majority of women were, couldn't tell the difference, because pandering isn't necessarily love. And I think for him, he's mastered that particular image of being the guy that is giving the validation that women are seeking for, in a way where women feel loved, they feel appreciated. But because he would be putting himself up on a pedestal, well, you know what? I'm not one of them guys that do these type of things. I'm not one of them guys that will be cheating on women. He never gave grace towards those type of men, the same men that he'll be downing. And now when he comes out, now I think he's dealing with the clash of wanting to protect the image that he has perfected. He's now dealing with that fact that everyone has seen me for who I truly am, and I'm trying to hold on to what I want people to see me as. So now we're at a crossroads where we can't tell the difference if he's actually being genuine in his own quote unquote accountability. We don't know if he's still selling a facade, because the way he comes across is overly preachy at times, when even referring to himself, talking about yourself in even the third person in a way. So I don't know if you're still playing a role of trying to be a motivational coach whilst you're telling your own personal life. So that's where I'm with it. I find it difficult to tell if he's being genuine about his own assessment, or if he's still trying to play a facade. And sometimes when people get caught up in the facade of who they used to be, it becomes almost conflated. So that's my opinion about that.
Precious, you going? No? Okay. All right. Well, yeah, I think it was definitely Mr. Team JAXN upholding the brand and the persona that he's created. I definitely agree with those points. I feel like listening to him, it was more like a collaboration rather than he was the person, you know, that was there to do most of the revealing about what he'd been doing and things like that. And at no point did I see him phased or anything. Not that he has to be, because he's perfected the art of being in front of the camera. And also his message doesn't change at all throughout these interviews compared to what we've seen from him before. It's the same mannerisms, the same style, the same everything. So I think he's being authentic, and he didn't take an L when all of this came out that much. He still has a large following. So, you know, he's not in rebuild mode, because he never really lost it to begin with. He still had 1 million+ followers across all platforms. He still continued to do the same type of messages and videos he was doing before the marriage broke up. So I think it's going to continue. And, you know, he's successful at what he does. And that's probably why, because he has mastered the art of being as confident as he is, despite you know, what would be a very earth-shattering loss for some guys, you know, like your missus leaves and takes the kids, you know, usually that's going to be a huge blow to a guy who really is a family man and is really about, you know, loving his wife and all of that. But no, it seems like he's just taking it in his stride. So that to me gives the impression that he wasn't really invested in the beginning with her, you know. So, and I really think that he was and still is talking about himself, not only in the third person, but with most of the stuff that he's talking about, the people that you should be, you know, fearful of or not letting in. Like he's definitely, you know, that guy that I think he's actually speaking from a very self-reflective perspective a lot of the time. So wasn't anything new for me. He's entitled to give his take on what happened, to tell his truth. But I didn't hear anything that I didn't already know, or, you know, wasn't surprised by anything that he said. Precious.
I was really hoping people would just forget about me.
You didn't watch it, did you?
I didn't finish it.
Well, that's great. Just say what you.
I will just say what I have gathered, okay, and also what I think. You know what? As for Derek Jackson, I don't know who the man is anymore, because all of the stuff that's happening now it goes to show you that honestly, what people do show on their social media, or the persona that they want to give, that's all it is really in the grand scheme of things, regardless of whether it's pandering or it's not pandering, or if it's the pink pill, the blue pill, the red pill, the yellow pill, whatever. It's all just this functional way of being able to deliver a message, whether or not it's the truth or not. And I think kind of what JR was saying, from what I saw, there was a lot of self-reflection, but it did feel very much kind of like preempted self-reflection that he might have just gotten from like 5 sessions of therapy. It was deep, but it wasn't anything that we didn't already know about him. It wasn't anything that didn't already feel tellable by just looking at the situation in its entirety. But it didn't, I will agree, it didn't feel, it felt a bit kind of, what's the word? It did feel a bit convoluted, and it did feel a bit, what's the word? Like, not all the way authentic, but I do feel like he was telling the truth. I think he was telling his version of the truth, his version of what he was feeling. And I wouldn't say that's not, I wouldn't call it invalid or anything, but I think there's a rawness that was missing, that I just didn't really feel from what he was saying. And maybe that's kind of like what Charlene was saying, like maybe yes, a lot of the emotional things he's done behind closed doors, and he's felt this great sadness, or this great loss, or this, you know, or regret, or whatever. But I guess there was an element of emotionality that was missing a little bit from it, and it did feel a little bit more kind of like the Derek Jackson that we'd seen on Instagram for so many years doing these videos. So it didn't feel all the way completely authentic to what you would imagine would be the reaction. But I guess also it fit in with that narrative of somebody who was consistently disrespecting his wife in such a way. So I don't know. I think honestly, my heart just goes out to the kids. If I'm being honest, that's where I really just feel sad, is the kids, because I feel like they've lost the family unit. I don't know how effective that family unit was, but they have lost the family unit, and they're the ones in this whole thing that, regardless of what happens with Derek Jackson or Danae Jackson, they're the ones that I think are going to suffer it the most. So, yeah.
All right. Appreciate it, Precious. Want to focus obviously a little bit more on the pandering aspect, right? So I literally just went to his channel. I went to his channel. I want to quickly just see, and I was like, why do I feel like he panders? And I think it's when you look at some of the titles, I think you can see why we think he panders a lot, right? And then I literally clicked on a video where he says, why do I not make videos for men? And I listened to the explanation behind the scenes. Thank you, Precious, for talking while I was listening to it behind the scenes, just trying to get a little bit more understanding. I was like, even his explanation doesn't fit in with his explanation of why he doesn't make videos for men was more about, he tries to flip it by basically saying by doing the videos he doesn't make it by men or whatever, right? But his pandering aspect, I think, is a huge issue, which for a lot of people at first didn't really see. I think more people have come to that understanding now since he's been on, has been showing his tail. But I want to get a bit more perspective on the pandering aspect, boys. Like, from your perspective, the pandering, how do you view it? How do you see it? Why are we calling it pandering, if you agree with that statement or not? Like, from your perspective, how do you see it in that regards?
Thing is, reason why we call it pandering is because if you can only tell women what they want to hear in the context of affirmation, which I do believe affirmations are important, but at the same time, not also talk about the areas where women may need an area of accountability, and you're not doing it in a place of maliciousness, then can I honestly say that you actually love the women that you care about? Because loving people doesn't mean accepting every bad thing that they do and then just simply turning a blind side eye to it. That's what I mean, that there's a difference between understanding women where they're coming from and then pandering, which is basically enabling their behavior in a way and not calling it out for what it is. It's like you, and also in doing so, when he's now trying to make it out as if he doesn't do them type of things, yet we come to find out he's exactly the same type of man that he likes to purport about. In doing so, he puts himself up on the pedestal, and yet when he gets caught out on it, and another reason why is that I can't take the brother seriously is in his quote unquote, he made a reaction video to the whole situation when Danae and Derek had to address the whole cheating situation. He made a whole response video towards that. He was reacting to himself, talking about himself in the third person. So how am I supposed to now take him seriously if he's really apologetic about it? So to answer your question about pandering, it's that you can walk and chew gum at the same time. You can tell somebody the truth in a loving manner, right? You can do both. You can let people think about it. In life, you always talk about a person's areas where they need to improve, right? You talk about the good things that they're doing and the things that they need to improve. You can do both. It doesn't mean that you hate anybody. No, obviously, you have to be mindful of what you say and how you say to a particular person. Calm, but there's still an area for improvement. But only just talking about the good side and never addressing what needs to be addressed, to me, it comes across as pandering.
Boys?
Yeah, that's exactly the same kind of sentiment that I have. Like, from when I first saw him or heard about him, just seeing and hearing how he only specifically focused on one side, and we shouldn't even call it sides, because basically what he does, if he was more balanced, he could actually be seen in a different regard completely. But obviously before his cheating came out, but no, he knew what he was doing. He realized that it's big money that he's making. He can sell merch. He can get all the views and clicks and everything. And so, yeah, like his pandering is purely, I want to say, the most genuine thing about him. from what I've seen. If there's one thing you can guarantee, he's gonna pander. Like, he's not gonna hold any behaviors accountable. And I don't think that's far too distant from why he's so disassociated in this instance too. Because even though he knows he's done something to destroy his marriage, he doesn't care, because he still is able to elicit the support of many other women out there who don't really care. Obviously, I'm not saying they will have to unfollow him or anything, but let's be real. If he was going to get cancelled, it would have happened as soon as these stuff came out, because it's pretty bad what he was doing. So yeah, his pandering will not stop as a result of any of these videos that he's done in these interviews. He's found a legit way to mold himself and to make money from it. So it's going to continue.
Coach, now when I think about it, what Derek Jackson has done is like his pandering ways. It's even worse, because for women, there are some women, maybe due to lack of validation or lack of affection from men that they've been in previous relationships, or even family members, for instance, where maybe there are mum and dad issues. Maybe Derek Jackson, he filled a void for those women. So they only got the extreme side of only being told the positive and never the negative. Because if you're raised in an environment where you're only hearing negative, 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 and that's called tough love, right? Obviously, if you're not able to have a balanced perspective, you will go to the extreme. And that's what Derek Jackson was able to do. So on some end of it, the pandering ways of things could be even more dangerous, because now you overinflate people's ego. And because they're not checked on the behavior, they don't see, you've got some blind spots you've got to work on. So by him pandering to that, him filling a void, and you can make a case it's a much needed void still, him doing that doesn't necessarily mean that he is in love. He loves women like that. You just took advantage of them in a way of almost like manipulating the situation for your own gain, when you think about it as well. You could also look at it from that perspective too. It's like prominent figures. I'm even thinking like Terry Crews, for example, at one point where he had a pandering way in terms of what he went through. He started supporting women, championing women's movements, but then when it came to Gabrielle Union and her situation with America's Got Talent, now he's doing a whole 180. So it's like people like that, when it comes to pandering, people have to pick a side. Like, you have to be honest about your assessment. But I think he's safe. There are women up to this day that are still supporting him up to this day. Like, he's not taking a cut when it comes to finances, Derek Jackson. He's built his career so that he's now safe. And I think the Nia Jackson, if anything, has got more of the backlash. I mean, from not only getting with a guy like that, knowing his tendencies, but also due to the whole rotation part. But he's created this mask where nothing can really faze him. He's got that look, he's got that physique, he's attractive enough, he says all the right things, so he's not really going to take a hit like this.
Mr. D. Do you know what? I'm sitting here just thinking. So to me, he panders is because he's using these other women as validation of his own character. He desperately wants to see himself as that nice guy. Because people that talk to him and get to know him off camera say he's an amazing guy. But there is absolutely no way that he's lived his life not knowing what he is doing to, I'm going to call her his main woman. And let's be honest here, there would have been other women over the past, however, how many years it's been, who would have felt a certain way about Derek, who he would have also disappointed, who he would have also broke their hearts. Even when he went back to Danae, let's not pretend that there wasn't other women there who really felt that, you know, he was going to be for them. And for him to actually say he acknowledges that he was, I guess, trying to take care of his audience's heart, but he was never really doing it at home. Yeah, you can say Nas was horrible, but whatever, cool. But for him to acknowledge that, to me, that means his validation was from outside the house. He needed that. That's why he was pandering, because of what he would receive from it in the DMs. Oh my gosh, why can't my whatever be like you, etc. Like come on, let's be honest, he would have loved it. He would have loved it, especially as he says at home when he was trying to show his missus something, he was getting the rejection. That's not dismissing his part to play in the mess and him causing the amplification of her reaction to the traumas, etc. Just as that this is just an acknowledgement of why he may have been doing what he was doing. He also talked about his boundaries, and when you have a lack of boundaries, as much as you say you don't want to do certain things, it's gonna happen, because you're gonna put yourself in those situations. When the rejection comes, based on what he says, he's gonna be even more inclined to put himself in those situations, because those women are receiving him differently. To me, that's it. He's pandering because of the validation that he gets, and until he addresses why he needs that validation in women, he's going to continue this cycle. Again, I'll say it. Any woman that gets with him is going to be hurt in the same way. He is not ready to relationship. He is not at all. He is not there. And by the way, neither is Danae. They both got together purely based off trauma. Their foundations wasn't there. They both fed off each other, and that was it. And with that type of stuff comes, they think it's love, but really it's addiction to the nonsense, or the survival nature, or the roller coaster. They get attached, and their investment. I don't believe he would have married her if she didn't have his child. So everything that was going on at home was a struggle. He panders because of the validation it gives him. And that's just the way I see it. It's just a complete mess.
Thank you, boys. Charlene, you wanted to add something. You said you had something that you realized about Derek. Go for it.
Yeah, it's very similar to what you were saying, Jay. One thing that he said in his interviews as like a recurring theme is about rejection, right? So the first thing was he said that his mother stopped tucking him in at night and kissing him goodnight because she had a boyfriend. He felt rejected. And then he got together with Danae. He would show her affection. She would freeze, she would shut down, and then he would feel rejected and then cheat as a result of that. I mean, that's a whole thing in and of itself. But one question that he asked on the interview of himself, which he said out loud, was, why isn't she receiving me? And there is no other group of women that are going to receive you other than a group of women being told that they are not accountable when they feel broken in regards to relationships. There is a huge profitable market for women to really hear you and receive you when you're saying to them, your relationship breakdown wasn't your responsibility. It's not your fault. You don't have to look at yourself. Look at the guy. And so he's got this guaranteed, it's almost like a stroke of genius when you think about it from a business perspective, right? Because you have got a guaranteed market of repeat buyers that will always come to you because they want to be told that they are not at fault, that they're still worthy, that they're still valuable. And of course they are those things, but they want to be told that it's not me, it's him. And I just think that he does this thing where he's either trying to keep women away from him or he's reacting to their rejection, which makes him very volatile. And that's also very interesting to me. But yeah, in addition to what Jay was saying in terms of the validation, he needs to be received. And I think most men would say that. but the way that he's gone about it has become very, very profitable. And I think this is a need. It's a drive, like hunger or thirst for him. I don't think he can give this up, guys. And I don't think that he will. He would be silly from a business perspective to give it up. And I mean, it's working for him. It's just a shame that, and so, sorry, when I'm talking about rejection, I don't think he cares about masculine rejection. So he doesn't care about what you guys think about him pandering. He's already reaping enough benefits from pandering to a broken female audience to not have your rejection of him even matter. So I just wanted to say that too.
Big words. Anyone want to add anything to that? Those are some big words.
I was going to say it's interesting because I think, I don't know, I feel like there's also so much going on, and I think I'm seeing a lot of the term like narcissist and narcissism being thrown around. And I don't know, because I think I can see why people think he's a narcissist. I can definitely see that. I think for him, the idea of pandering is always really interesting to me, because a lot of the times pandering is only really like, I only ever see pandering being used when it's a man pandering towards women, but I never really see people talk about the men who pander towards men. So it's interesting the viewpoint of what that is. I think yes, he does engage in a lot of pandering. I think the reality of the situation is kind of what you guys have all said. There is that element of needing that validation from people who don't already know his mistakes. I think that's probably why the validation, he wasn't trying to seek validation from Danae, because you'd think that would be at least the first point of call. And I know that he was talking about not getting that affection, but for someone who so desperately needs that affection, you'd think he would still be trying to get that affection from his wife, but instead he's going directly to get affection from people who don't know his baggage and who can't access his baggage and who can't actually see him for his entirety. And he comes across as somebody who wants to be seen for his entirety. As you've been saying, he wants to be received as who he is. But I think where I think some of the narcissism is coming in, he wants to be received for the Derek JAXN that he's created in his mind. The Derek JAXN that he's now portraying to everybody else. And that is where I think the pandering is stemming from. Because logically you'd think that when you've got this family unit at home, it seems to be important to him. We can ask whether or not he actually truly loved Danae or not. I'm going to assume that there was some form of love there. But I think for him, yeah, it's the idea of like, you created this persona that seems to be perfect. As Charlene says, it's a gold mine, gold rush for many a woman around the world who feel unvalidated, unseen, and who will then, I guess, become adoring and doting because they see this image of the man that they've created in their mind of a kind of man they would want to be with, right? And I think that's where the pandering comes. He's pandering to this image of himself that he's created, that he's delivering to these people that necessarily isn't the truth. And I think that is where that kind of feeling of the reality of who he is and the insecurities that he feels, or the shortcomings that he feels, all of that stuff can be paused and thrown away in that 30-second video that he sends out to all his fans, and they respond back in the way that he feels that he never really got. And I guess because they got together so young, he never got to experience any other woman and experience validation in different types of ways. So I think part of me feels a bit sorry for him in a way, but I also feel really sorry for the toxic hurricane that they both have served each other. And it just, I don't know, I'm not sure about the pandering, because I don't know, I feel like pandering is such a loaded thing. It's so loaded, and I don't know if we've got time to unpack that, but I'll take you guys' words for it, because you're the men in the panel. I'll take your word for it.
You know what? I want to add to that here, because as you're speaking, Precious, there's something else that occurred to me as well. And it's something that we usually address in women, but I feel this is a chance now to address it in men, because it looks exactly the same. And that's sabotage. To me, when you create this type of unhealthy attachment, which is evident was there from the beginning, especially because your own traumas, and like he said about Danae, he also has to realize how much work he needs to do in himself, regardless of what Danae is doing, right? This situation is where the person you're with can never validate you. It's because by being with you, they actually can see who you actually are. And that's a pain that a lot of people are not ready to deal with, are not ready to look themselves in the mirror. So to me, the pandering also, in addition to what I was saying earlier, comes into, he knows at home he's not going to feel like the type of person that he, I guess, wants to be. So he has to become this other entity outside of the marriage in order to receive that. Then when he looks back in the marriage, he's not receiving it, he's going to go back out. He looks back, he's going to go back out. That's the toxic cycle. And someone like Danae, you know, her validation isn't from, 1,000 men. That's not the type of woman that she is, at least the way they spoke about. It's based off, as she said, Derek was her God. She needs that from a man. She's never going to receive that type of love from Derek. But again, it's that attachment. So it's that cycle. I want to receive it because this man, someone gave me a call. He reminds me of this. He reminds me of that. And it's just it just becomes a toxic mess where, I'm back now, where that validation is just not gonna, it's going to work. Some keeps on calling me, hold on, where it's just not gonna happen. And sorry, that's kind of thrown me. Yes, as I was saying, yeah, do you know what? That's even thrown me. But you get my point, yeah? You get my point. That it's just that deeper level, the validation that they're both looking for was never going to come in the first place. She decided not to go outside of marriage, so therefore she was going to get way more hurt in the marriage than he would be. He was looking outside, he was self-medicating outside of the marriage. So that's softened the blow of how much emotional responsibility that he actually needs to take from what he has caused. And to me, I'm not going to say it's like rock bottom, because he is showing a degree of awareness, but it's not good enough. It's not good enough at all. Again, I don't know if it will improve. I mean, his emotional, I don't know all the psychology terms, but the way he's disassociating himself, the way he has always done, is scary to me. And to me, that's not a man who actually is ready to deal with his actual trauma and why he is that way. And that's a deeper level, my brain is affected type of thing for me. And that's why it's like, yo, Derek, you need to just sit down and take some time out. Same with Denia, by the way, but because you shouldn't be online saying anything, because you're using this to perform. You're using this to mask who you really are as a way to feel whatever you didn't feel, and it will never be enough. That's what makes it dangerous. So when I forgot who said it, I don't know if it was you, Precious, or Cole said it, was it Charlene, where he is not going to change because that validation means everything to him. He's found it. Finally, he's found it. But it's not good enough. It will never fill his cup at all. That's why it's a cycle. It's a problem.
It's a problem. And that's kind of like why I said that I kind of do feel sorry for him, because you can tell that need for that validation is that need for that connection, that need to feel this feeling that he just can't feel. And he's not going to be able to really truly get that, because you're not, no one can really, the validation that you get from someone can never feel real unless they see all sides of you and still validate you. Obviously, yes, they can bring you to accountability, but the idea of true connection and true validation is someone being able to see all the good and the bad and the ugly and still be able to give you that sense of validation, that sense of, I appreciate you, I love you for who you are, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, yeah, cool, you know, obviously we're not saying people who have like real toxic things going on, but just somebody who's balanced, who's secure, but has their stuff. Everyone has their stuff, but someone sees that and they still love that. But he can't ever really achieve that because he's so stuck in limerence that he will never be able to fully get a proper connection. They were both stuck in an element of limerence. They were both stuck in this box of limerence where they weren't acknowledging it, and that's what creates that toxic cycle, because now you're attached to the limerence. You're not attached to the person, you're attached to that. And because it's not a real thing, and because that limerence is already broken and shattered, all you're left with is that toxic cycle, that hope of thinking, okay, I feel bad actually, I shouldn't be doing this, let me go back and see if things have changed back home. Okay, things haven't changed back home, all right, I'm out on the streets again. And you know, and it's just a shame all around, because you know that underneath all of that like messed up behavior on both sides are people who are truly in pain and who need help. And I know there's some people in the comments chatting about empathy shouldn't be given and blah blah blah, but it should be, because the reality situation, there are two people underneath all of that stuff that are in a lot of pain, that haven't been able to heal properly, and mean that they're at risk of continuing a cycle with other people, themselves, their kids, all of that stuff. So you just have to hope that they're able to find a rock bottom where at least they find a way out and a way to really figuring out who they are as people, how to heal, how to not necessarily fix, because I think fix is a loaded word, but at least how to figure out what the issue is and how to be aware of it and nip it in the bud before it starts to self-sabotage all of any potential future connections that you might want to get. And I think, you know, for Danae, I think that might be a lot easier to do because she doesn't have a whole career invested in some of the dysfunction. Whereas I think for Derek Jackson, he's created this whole thing. He's created a whole empire based on this. As Charlene said, it's going to be a lot more of a tricky. It's going to be a lot trickier to figure that out and navigate that as a result.
Yeah, I like listening to all of your points. Like, man, I agree with a lot of it, and I think I'll add this. He did mention rejection. He talked about that, and he said whenever he got rejected, he was just like, "Yep, I'm out. I'm gonna go do what I need to do." Right, and I think he's done that so much that he really doesn't check for Danae anymore. He's not couldn't care less if she's there or not. Like it's too far gone now. So how it may have affected him at first when the rejection started, now he has a coping mechanism where he's just like, yeah, well, you know, I'm 6'5", 6'4", got muscles, dark skin, you know, white teeth, big smile. Man, can get tons of girls out here. So Danae, when you met me, I had girls. You was one of them. You got pregnant. That's the only reason why we're together. I think he knows all of that, and that gives him the confidence to keep going back out there because he doesn't rate her like that, to be honest. And there wasn't much contrition. I mean, he, you know, this to me seemed, like I said, more like he was so relaxed and comfortable. And you know, time has elapsed, so it isn't fresh, but even still, it was in the same exact style that he delivers all of his videos in. You know, it's just that it was in person this time. The locations changed. So that's either him being really like that and authentic for us as viewers, or he's perfected it, right? And it's an art form and all the rest of it. I tend to go with it's authentic. I really think that he didn't really rate his marriage like that. He ain't caught up about it. You know, he was seen with ladies as soon as that thing came out. And, you know, like we've all agreed, he is a master at playing along with the narrative that there's good guy, bad guy, right? And the men are always going to be the bad guy. And he is the baddest one of them all, because it takes some gusto to be doing what he was doing, amass the following he has, and then, you know, to get caught. And it wasn't just once, it was multiple times that he was flying women in and out or going to check girls and all these different things. So it isn't a slip up, it isn't a mistake. He consciously knew this is an intelligent guy. But I think where I'll land my plane on this is, I feel like there is that saying, and I heard Kojo spit it recently, but it's an old bar. Like, how you get him is how you lose him, right? And how he got her was the same charm, charisma, and everything. And, you know, that's what probably wowed her, according to her interview. And now, you know, that's why he may have handled that rejection the way he did. But now he knows he can elicit that attraction from outside and do whatever he wants, really. He can still continue to date and sleep with and fly girls in and out. Even now, being divorced, everybody knows he's got kids and marriage and everything. That didn't stop any of the ladies from getting to know him personally. So, yeah, that's what his focus is. His focus is maintaining who he is. And, you know, there's an element of, okay, that's what you're supposed to do. Like, get dust yourself off, get back up and go back out there. But he's not doing it in a way which shows that he actually is remorseful about what happened. And I don't think he was ever going to fight for Danae's love or attraction or anything, because, you know, after 2 or 3 times of rejecting him, he was like, what? You gonna reject me? You know who I am? Like, you gonna reject me? Nah, okay, you can go over there and I'm gonna keep doing me then. I think he's got that pettiness in him where he's gonna be like, okay, well, I'm gonna go out and continue to do me, and you can like me or hate me, but we still got these kids, we can co-parent, and I'm gonna still make this bread. You can go do whatever you want to do. Hopefully you find a guy who can protect and provide for you, but he's making his money, he's got his dough set. Like Charlene said, there's going to be a countless opportunities for him to make videos and make money, because let's face it, we live in a day and age where relationships are very fractured, and there's a very polarizing side to relationships these days. You know, you have people isolating themselves, you have people saying, yeah, I don't need that, you know, I don't need a partner, I can do it by myself. You also have a lot of people who even though they are single at the moment, they're waiting for that Prince Charming, or they're waiting for that person to come into their life that's really gonna, and that's what he's playing on, right? He's there to give you that hope that you can get it, but at the same time, you know, he's saying that if you want to get it from him, he's open to that too.
Also want to say it does not take away from the fact that he's trifling. Up and down, just fully trifling, because yeah, I can't condone that. But I'm still hope Danae heals, because boy, she's been through the ringer.
Yeah, that's why for me it's like it's it's the lack of remorse for me when it comes to all of this, right? The fact that he's so disassociated from the whole situation, very apathetic at times when recalling some of the things that he's been through. I don't know if there are mental health issues he's going through. I mean, if we're going to take what he said in regards to his upbringing, his childhood, the lack of attention he received, lack of validation, and he's using women as a coping mechanism, there could be also mental health issues towards that, possibly, if I'm being charitable in that way. But then he's intelligent enough to know what is right and what is wrong. Yet he would say all the right things to those women that he can recognize that are broken, yet doesn't extend the same courtesy to the men that he ends up talking about. And now we're watching him in real time talk about what he's talking about and still trying to protect his brand, his image. That's another aspect of it, which I find a little bit annoying, because sometimes when you know you've done wrong, you would be remorseful in your behavior and the way that you talk. Yes, you'd be able to self-reflect, but it's like, raw, I really did this. I didn't mean to do this. But yet there was none of that. I'm not saying he has to, make a grand stand and do the most, but at least empathy towards what he did could have been shown in his tone and his mannerisms, and there was a lack of it in his communicating of what happened in all that he did, which makes me think that he's still caught up in the image that he wants people to see him as. Like, when you live a life for so long and you tell people and you base your lie on the books and the things that you've been talking about, when you tell other people how I did this, and you are not even living the life that you preach about, and yet now when you get called out on it, and now you're trying to battle with this image of what you have made the world to believe you are. Yeah, I can understand why people say he has narcissistic tendencies. I can understand that. And unfortunately, he's getting in the way of his own accountability and his own growth as a human being if he's so caught up in wanting to be this perfect person. So it looks as if he's like some pandering politician for women in this case, and some guys will consider him like a political f-boy because he's saying all the right things, doing all the right things, acting like a nice guy, but we see you for what you are, and yet you're still trying some way to soften the blow for yourself in how you see yourself. So what reason do we think that he's going to change when he's continued to play this particular role? And I think he's stuck in this role until something happens for him to realize, you know what, I really need to take a good hard look at myself. I don't think that he's going to give this act up anytime soon.
Yeah, go for Jay.
No, I'm just going to address.
Muted.
Can you hear me now? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to address what Maggie said in the comments, because it's a great point. But it's one that we have to be careful of. So Maggie said, also they were together for years. If he felt so rejected, why did he stay with Denia so long? It said, had kids and married her and continued to cheat. This is a great point, because I think that's the kind of like the easy thing to say. If a person is doing ABC, why did you stay? But we can say the same thing about Denia. If he was always this guy, why did she stay? So we kind of can't settle on such easy questions. We have to understand human psychology and emotion. And whether it's either of them, when you give someone something, remember that attachment, and then you're taken away, then you bring it back. That then creates a cycle that kind of keeps you in it. Especially when you want to try and do the right thing, you don't want to be a mess. It creates a cycle where you think maybe one day things will be okay, but it never gets there. How long it lasts is how long it lasts, but these things happen all the time. So you have to be careful. Remember, we're not dealing with healthy people. So the fact that neither of them left, it may not make sense to us, but we've all been in situations when we look back, we're thinking, why did we stay for so long? Why was we there? What type of nonsense? If that was me today, minute one, I'll be shutting everything down. But we all have to grow. And if this is how they started when they was younger, they continued it as they got older. If they met each other today, probably wouldn't happen. But if this is all they've known since the age of 19, I mean, we have to look at them through a different lens than who we are today, we have to see them that they both haven't really grown up emotionally. They both haven't grown up in a relationship aspect. They've both just been in a completely toxic mess. But what I will say is that, yes, they both have their own crosses to carry, but how Derek maneuvered ultimately, obviously he did way more. He did way more than what Danae did. And this is why we are all looking at him like, bruh, you cheat once or twice, okay. But what you was doing is a madness. What you was doing was a continuous madness. And the fact that you put her out in the public, it was a constant, I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen anything like this before. It's just ridiculous. Which then goes back to me is, yeah, he has the awareness to acknowledge it, but the emotion is missing. That's, again, I'll say that's what scares me. The emotion is missing. And it's like, bruh, I don't know what's going to help you. In fact, it's only Jesus that can help you, because no human being is truly going to be able to give you what you need, which is the problem in the first place. So he even admitted that his faith has to catch up to him wanting to be better in faith. So, I mean, I don't care about his age. He's only been in the faith for what, 3 years? That's a baby. You know, he ain't anywhere ready yet to deal with his traumas with Jesus. He still has a long way to go. And I'm not talking about spiritually. I'm just talking about practically. He's got a long way to go. He ain't ready to, you know, take those steps back, because, yeah, I mean, from the time he left the marriage and he was still collecting girlfriends, collecting other women. I mean, he admitted, you know, he inadvertently said he does 100% have a sexual history with women after his marriage. So he's still out here doing nonsense. So, I mean, yeah, this is a guy who, yeah, I mean, anyway, we can talk about this. Yeah.
What I find really interesting is when people are asking kind of like, why did he stay? And I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it's like, that feels obvious though. Like, it feels obvious why he stayed. Like, even if he felt rejected by his wife, she was a safe space. She was a constant in his life that wasn't going anywhere. Regardless of how many times he went out and cheated and did all he could do to destroy any form of relationship they had, she was there. She was not going anywhere. So of course he would stay, even if he felt rejected, because it's something that meant she represented a part of his life that knew all of his skeletons in the closet, but decided to still stay. That in itself is a form of validation. Even through the rejection of affection that he might have been getting from her, that is a form of validation that is still there. Now, regardless of what I do, you're still going to be here when I come back. So of course he's not going anywhere until he's forced to. And I feel like that's a pretty self-explanatory thing when you look at least what he's showing us, the psyche that he's showing us, the patterns of behavior that he's showing us. That makes sense. So I think the reality situation is that sometimes we don't use empathy enough to really think about why someone is doing that. And I also really want people to stop equating empathy with sympathy. I want people to stop equating empathy with saying that people are letting them off the hook. That's not the case. Because you can hang someone all you want. But if you're really trying to unpack what's happening there so that other people who are in a similar situation can see the patterns and be able to change something, you have to talk about it. You have to understand what is happening. What are the psychological processes that are going on? And why is this choice being made? It's too easy to be like, well, he could have just left. She could have just left. What I did, well, she did. She didn't. He didn't either. So let's think about what's happening there. What are the processes? What's going on? Why is this happening? Because that's how you actually have a meaningful conversation and you figure out what's going on there. So I just think, let's not jump to trying to do, burning people at the stake. Because the reality is, I think everyone on this panel unanimously thinks that he was trifling and he, really just was beyond reproach in his behavior. So I just think, yeah, that's a given. We understand that. No one is letting him off. We just have to understand what's happening there.
Precious.
Precious.
To add on to
Add
that,
on to that.
that's
That's
I think to add on to that point, just by you saying that, acknowledging the flaws that both people have doesn't necessarily mean that you are letting people off the hook. I mean, the fact that the matter is, yes, Derek Jackson, what he did was wrong. But when it comes to accountability, yeah, right, it takes two to tangle in a relationship. Now, obviously, Derek Jackson holds the heavy cut. He's the main perpetrator in this, 110%. No one is saying that. But we also cannot act as if that he was 100% the contributing factor. There was also another person in the relationship that also was a contributing factor. So if we only look at one side and never address the other elements towards the relationship, which is Danea, that doesn't mean that we're taking accountability away from him. It means that both of them have areas where they need to work on. So I think where you're getting at is this, that you just saying you're not, you being empathetic to the situation doesn't mean that you're pandering. No. So when I'm also looking at the comments and no, we're not making Derek Jackson out to be a victim. Trust me, men were calling out Derek Jackson a long time ago. But if we cannot have empathy for both sides, how can we ever expect relationships to grow? How can we ever expect people to change if we're willing to hold one person to the fire all the time? And it just so happens to be a man in this case. That I am willing to do that when it comes to Derek Jackson, but I'm just saying that there needs to be a better equitable approach towards this situation. That's all I'm saying.
I'm sorry, I just want to clarify. Sorry, I'm sorry. I just want to clarify. You can take an empathetic approach and not be sympathetic to somebody. That is literally a whole forensic psychologist job. That's all I'm saying. I just want people to understand the history of empathy and sympathy. You can totally be empathetic and understanding without feeling sympathetic and without agreeing. Just want to say that's all. I will shut my mouth now.
Hey, welcome to the jungle, guys. You see, and that's how I know that you're not pandering. You see, that's the combat that happens. You know, that's how I know you're not pandering. You see, you're going against the crowd. You see, that's what I like to see. Okay, all right. But you know, oh, nice nails. But yeah, no. You know, listen, look, I get it. Look, I think I understand the difficulty of this conversation because I think, you know, people want to nail people to the cross, and I do understand that. We've been here, and I understand, you know, that some people see it differently. You know, I think that yeah, we can say you know, that Derek is. I think this is okay. So let me give you an example of what I think people want. This is, and it actually goes back to our original point about pandering. What we want is this: Derek is a devil. That guy's a bastard. He is devil incarnation. That guy should not see life again. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the, you know, that's essentially what kind of Derek was doing without saying those critical key words, right? It's the lambasting and the labeling. And the thing is, we've already agreed that Derek is the bad villain in this particular case. What we're trying to do is understand the behavior. And so I want to make it very clear to anybody here, like, this is not one of those channels where we're going to talk and try to, as I say, talk all with the emotions, right? Like, I want to villainize. We're trying to understand why someone's doing what they're doing. This channel's all about understanding why someone does what they do. This is why we're having such a lengthy conversation. People are given different explanations, different viewpoints, different angles. Understand it. It's not about letting him off the hook at all. It's actually about really understanding where this behavior is coming from. And that's why I said, that's why I have a problem with when it becomes when people start commenting MPD, because none of you really explain anything properly. After it becomes MPD, we've shut the conversation. It's done. He's an MPD. Then we go. The conversation's done. Because after that, it's like, yeah, case closed. But it's like, we still want to be able to behave. We still want to be able to explain the behavior and some of the impacts of the behavior and understand where other people may identify, oh, I identify this part, something like this, or whatever. Because like I said, when I watched Derek, there's parts of me I'm like, oh, I gotta check me. There's parts of me that are, that I'm like, oh, baby, do I do that, or do I find myself looking at, so I want to make sure, like, I understand some people get frustrated about this Derek situation because I've seen it for the last 3 days. I've done the last 3 days doing Derek topics, and I can see, that some people feel some type of way about it. Aisha said, don't rationalize it. But the thing is, none of us are dating him. So this is not a dating situation. So when you say don't rationalize it, that's for you. Don't go and date him and rationalize it. We are not dating Derek. We are explaining the behavior so you get some understanding. I think I want people to slow down a little bit. I get it. I do understand the frustration, but I did the same thing with Danae. Rather than going in and bashing her over the head and saying da. I said, let's explain some of the behavior. Why is she at this point? Why is she doing what she's doing at the moment? Why would she stay with somebody like Derek when she can see that? And I think this does go back to that key point that even though Derek is a bit mad, the point that he made is very, very clear. And I think, Jay, you mentioned at the very beginning, is very easy. And I've got a predominantly woman audience, so I understand. It is very easy to make men devils instead of men. So what happens is then we can no longer talk about the behavior because now I have to label him something so that you feel comfortable. And it's like, that shouldn't be the case. If we're explaining the behavior, I explain it for both men and for women. And that should be it. We should be okay to do that. But I get it. You know what I mean? I get it that it can be very difficult because it's tough to see someone like Derek. People have encountered a Derek before, and this is a form of justification. Like, if we nail him to the cross now, it's like, you know what? You saw what I saw, so you got him good. And it's like, I hear it, but I wanna. The reason why we're rationalizing it or essentially breaking it down is so people can actually see these behaviors for what it really is, and actually so that you can also notice it next. You know what I mean, as well, or you can pass this to somebody else and they can also notice it as to what's happening. Because I'm gonna be very honest with you. Some of you will label your ex an MPD, and they're not an XP. They're not an MPD because you feel hurt by that person, what they did. And it's like I get tired of just things getting labeled it without us actually really diving deeper into core issues here. I'm not saying he isn't MPD, but what I'm saying is, why is that our first rush? It's because we don't know nothing else. There's not enough education around the different behaviors of what people do. So we run into MPD because it's a buzzword at this moment. It's like, he's a narcissist. Is he? Because he could easily be a sociopath. He could easily be. They share some qualities, right? If you studied, you'd know that. But you see, we run to this MPD. Every man that does bad to you, MPD. If he even breathes badly, MPD. Hey, we have to broaden our horizons. There's other behaviors out there. There are things that people do that are crazy. They're not just MPD. You know what I'm saying to you? So I'm saying, slow it down. Yeah, slow it down. I get it. I hear what you're saying, and I feel you. I'm just saying, let's not rush straight to certain things. You know what I mean? So that's what we say. Yes, Jay. Sorry, Jay was going to go for something else, babe.
So there you go. Said something again. That's an amazing point. I want to address this as well. So I feel like this is something I've really had to deal with often. So she said, Angelina's the LW Academy, by the way. One of the things that keep women in toxic situations is the empathizing with the lies they tell for why they do what they do, right? This is a brilliant point, because I am sick and tired of consistently having to explain to women certain things that men do. Stop minimizing it. Stop manipulating yourself. Just accept it is what it is. And I'm not a woman, so I can't fully explain how women think, in terms of why this is such a regular occurrence. But it is a frustration for me. But what I don't do is what their friends do. They will call their friends, and all they will do is say, like Kojo is saying, the man is a demon, the man is a demon, the man is a demon, the man is a demon. He may be the top number one demon, but I've realized it's unhelpful to the person who is the victim. It's unhelpful to the person who is hurt, because we also need to address, sis, why are you not seeing what I'm seeing? What is it with you that you are not willing to accept this is what it is, and you also need to move on? We need to stop. Again, accountability seems to be like hard, and it doesn't mean that it removes or absolves the other person from what they're doing. From a counseling situation, there are plenty times where you need to address both for different things, for any healthiness or healing to happen. And this is an area where I get tired. I get ladies all the time and say, you know what, thank you, Jason. I actually enjoy talking to you. When I talk to my friends, all they do is feel how I actually feel. But when I talk to you or people like you, you actually help me heal, which is the difference, which is a big difference. I'm not God or anything like this. All I'm saying is I sit down and do what we're doing now. I explain, this is what it looks like. This is why someone is doing it. And there's so many ladies that actually seek this. I don't understand. I don't understand. Okay, sis, let me sit down and explain to you, because it seems like your lady friends can't explain to you. I get it, because they're not men. As a man, let me explain it to you. This is all that we're doing. I do this all the time. I've even done it this week. But I'm sick and tired of having to explain the same thing over and over again. I know it's going to continue. But as Precious was saying, we have to have these open conversations so we see what the patterns look like. We hold each other accountable. You know, I made relationship decisions coming from a place of, you know, rejection when I was younger. I had to come into an understanding of myself as to why I do those things, right? That's not easy. So as I am here, let me help my brother, let me help my sister come into an understanding as well. That's what I care about. I care about the person I care about. That's what I care about. Because again, if we're not addressing things holistically, in my experience, and I also study psychology, criminology, sociology. I work for the court system, seeing all of these things. I'm currently an intelligence analyst. So the way I have to view the world is different than just have emotion. And to me, it's about how can we help people? How can we educate each other? What do I need to warn my sister or my brother about? What do I need to address mentally and emotionally? If all you are doing is responding from a place of the other side, whether it's women or man, is an enemy and they're a demon, you are also a sick person that needs healing. And sick doesn't mean, you know, you're bad. I just mean there's so much trauma that you've also been through that this conversation is a trigger. And that's something that you need to address, because it's unhelpful to you and to everyone else. That's all I say.
What are you looking at me for, Precious?
No, oh sorry, I was reading the comments. No, I was just gonna say that I think somebody at some point said, you know, we don't want to rationalize his behavior and give victims that space to then minimize and make excuses and stay. But the reality of the situation is that when you're a victim of abuse, you don't even need rationalizations to stay. You could have someone in your face telling you he's a bad person, leave, and you would still stay if you are a victim of abuse. So no amount of rationalizing or demonizing will change a victim of abuse's mindset on things, full stop anyway. I think the idea behind this conversation is more about understanding why someone is doing something doesn't mean that you have to condone it. It doesn't even mean that you have to accept it. Because that relationship of accepting something is purely a you thing. Now, there's contributing factors that might stop you from being able to separate the reality of what is happening with this person, the process that's happening with this person, and how that includes your life. You might have attachment issues. You might have self-worth issues. You might have a whole heap of things that cloud your judgment in saying, okay, let's say he is a narcissist, right? You can say, I can understand why he's doing this, because he thinks this is this, and he sees this is this, he feels like this, and this is why he then does this. Now, the judgment on that is down to you as to whether or not that's something that you can cope with, or whether that is something that is healthy. That's where you come into the situation. It's not always easy, because there's people where their judgment is clouded because of their past history, their past trauma, all of that stuff. But understanding why someone does something and how they've gotten to that point helps you, one, as Kojo said before, to identify aspects of you that might be similar. It helps you to identify aspects of you that might allow a lot of this abuse to happen in your life. And it also helps you to point out aspects of where you've been mistreated and you didn't realize. And there's areas of trauma that you've experienced and you didn't even realize because you weren't aware. You weren't aware what was happening. So as a result, you were a victim even though you didn't even realize you were a victim. And not knowing allows the cycle to keep going. That's one aspect that allows the cycle of abuse to keep going. Knowing is only one half of the battle. Being able to understand is another half of the battle. But then being able to make a discernment and decision of, I'm in a place that is detrimental to me, I can't be here anymore. That is the hardest part of the journey. When you're a victim, hardest part. And so the idea is not to absolve Derek JAXN from his absolutely appalling behavior or the way that he has clearly hurt Danae in many, many ways and put Danae at risk for many things. But I think one thing for me anyway, personally, is understanding why this happens. Because if we didn't sit and try and understand, you wouldn't have these labels, narcissistic personality disorder, to use. You wouldn't have sociopath as a term to use. You wouldn't have terms and ideas and definitions for all of these things if people weren't trying to sit down and understand why does somebody do this when it's a bad thing to do? What has caused them to do this? There has to be some conversation about that. But never once is it with the intention to say it's right or that it's even normal. And I think sometimes people assume that that's what, when you're unpacking something or when you're trying to understand something, that you're somehow automatically giving it the title of it being normal. It's not. We're not trying to normalize any form of that behavior at all. We're just trying to understand why would he do what he did? What was happening? And we, of course, will only know what he decides to tell us. We will only know what she decides to tell us. So he can sit there and he can lie and he can say what he wants. But we have no other evidence around that apart from what Danae is saying and what he's saying. And of course, there's contradictions because there's two different people's experiences. There's the victim, there's the perpetrator. There's two different experiences going on there. But if you were, for example, a therapist in the room with somebody and they were giving you, you're taking what they're giving you and you're trying to unpack that. Whether or not that's the truth or it's lies, that's a whole different conversation. But all we've got to unpack is what's there, what he's saying, because we're talking about his specific life. So that's all I'm saying. But I think I completely understand. I think for some victims of abuse, emotional abuse, when you've been emotionally abused, there's a lot of anger and resentment. There is a lot of just feeling absolutely disregarded and just, it's a horrible feeling to feel. And I think, that we're never ever trying to make anyone who's experienced that kind of toxic relationship, that where they've been truly hurt, to feel like they deserved that abuse or that thing they caused that. No, because the reality is somebody who's abusive will be abusive regardless. The only thing that really is in your control is whether you are there for that abuse or not. But when you're a victim, it never ever feels like it's in your control. That's the whole point of being a victim in that moment, is it doesn't feel like it's in your control. So it's a complicated thing. I understand why people feel very sensitive about the topic, completely get it. But I guess long way to say is that, yeah, definitely not trying to condone any of the behaviours that he's shown, just trying to understand why that's happened.
No, I appreciate it still. I was tussling in the comment section, you get me? So no, it's cool. It's cool. Listen, anyone in the audience, listen, look, we love a tussle. I don't mind a tussle. Do you know what I mean? I think I wanted to make it very clear though, because I feel like, and this is why on especially on this channel, because I feel like as men specifically, I'm very protective of men too, whether I like them or not. I'm very protective of them, and reason being, I have a predominantly woman audience, and we get labeled as men very quickly. I have been labeled Kevin Samuels before I've even opened my mouth. You understand? I've been labeled Kevin Samuels when I've said I didn't agree with women. So whenever it comes to men specifically, I'm always careful, like not to jump down certain roads, like things like MPD, sociopathy, those kind of things. I don't like jumping down those roads. One, because I'm not trained, you know what I mean? So, and unless I've done the actual, diagnosis of that person, I tend to leave those things alone. That's all I was trying to say. So it's not that people can't disagree. You can disagree. We tussled all the time. Like I tussled the other day. I got no problem tussling. We can go back and forth. We went back and forth for 2.5 hours. That is not the issue. The issue I was saying about was people were saying that we weren't actually having a discussion. I was like, we are explaining the behavior. That's what we always do. We always do. We always explain the behavior. But it feels like in this occasion, because we're explaining a man that you don't like, we have to label him something. And I was like, that is what I was pushing back on. So don't worry, you can still tussle. We will, by all means, we'll always tussle. It's not a problem. You can tussle on this channel. We can push back. I haven't got a problem with that. Just wanted to make that very clear to people. You know what I mean? All right, cool. Let's shift it to our actual topic. Let's shift to our actual topic as well. Let's get into let's get into some real conversations. You know what I mean? So we're going to talk about our actual topic now as well. Listen, I'm sure people want to tussle some. Oh, there, Jay's back. Here you go. As well. So let's get into our second topic. I'm going to get the get a video out for you guys. Give me a second, and then we'll get into our second topic for you guys. All right. Ooh, yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Oh my God. Hold on. 2 seconds, guys, and I'll get it for you guys. All right. There we go. All righty. So we're going to be discussing whether women test men, or why do women test men? Now, I got a little petty bag in me today, so I might be a little bit petty, baby. All right, cool. I've got our topic here. And here we go. All right. Coolly. Let me get this up. All right, there we go. So, okay, sorry, let me change this because Precious done got shifted out of the way. Let me put this in there. Hold on.
See how it is, Kojo, it's okay.
It wasn't personal, I promise. It wasn't promise. There we go. Cool. There we go. All right, cool. Here we go. Oh, let me put this out loud so you guys can hear it.
Says nothing, but you can grab something on the road. Husband stops by his best friend's house for dinner instead.
I'll play it twice.
Wife then says, then I won't cook for you no more since you got somewhere else to eat. Who's in the wrong? You hear that?
Why husband? Somebody told me, why husband? Wife? Okay, what we got on this side? Wife? Why? One person told me why? Okay, all right.
To someone.
Why wife? Who wants to? Why wife? For no reason, right?
She's a female.
Oh no! Hold up! Time out!
He went to a lady's house for dinner, y'all. There's no conversation. It's a whole different thing. We're gonna say husbands. Yeah. After a long day at work, husband calls his wife to see what she made for dinner. Wife says, nothing, but you can grab something on the road. Husband stops by his best friend's house for dinner instead. Wife then says, then I won't cook for you no more since you got somewhere else to eat. Who's in the wrong? You hear that?
Why husband? Somebody told me, why husband? Wife? Okay, what we got on this side? Wife? Why? One person told me why? Okay, all right.
To someone.
Why wife? Who wants to? Why wife? For no reason, right?
She's a female.
Oh no! Hold up! Time out!
He went to a lady's house for dinner, y'all. There's no conversation. It's a whole different thing. We're gonna say husbands. Yeah. After a long day at work, husband calls his wife to see what she made for dinner. Wife says, nothing, but you can grab something on the road. Husband stops by his best friend's house for dinner instead. Wife then says, then I won't cook for you no more since you got somewhere else to eat. Who's in the wrong? You hear that?
Why husband? Somebody told me, why husband? Wife? Okay, what we got on this side? Wife? Why? One person told me why? Okay, all right.
To someone.
Why wife? Who wants to? Why wife? For no reason, right?
She's a female.
Oh no! Hold up! Time out!
He went to a lady's house for dinner, y'all. There's no conversation.
Yes, I hope you guys got to hear if you got to hear the actual particular video in question. The question we're asking right now is, I guess, and it might be a little bit biased, my question. I've said, why do women test men? That's already a presupposition that women actually test men. And I would have failed a paper if that was the case. But, this particular scenario, the wife says, are you going to eat? The husband says, hey, I'm going to eat. But she's like, you know what? I ain't cooking nothing. He's like, all right, cool. I mean, he's out on the road. You know what I mean? He eats on the road, goes to a friend's house, which I don't know. Maybe they have more information because suddenly the friend became a woman. So I don't know. But anyway, went to the friend's house, ate the food at the house, went home. Wife is like, "What the hell? How have you eaten? What do you mean? How have I eaten? You tell me if I want to eat on the road, isn't it? Get me?" And obviously, man's done that very thing, and it's come home and it's been a problem. And they're asking who is at fault. So I want to know, like, from your perspective, ladies and gents, who is at fault here? Because this is clearly a communicational error situation, or is there one party that should be blamed for this, or both need to be taken account of? I want to get your honest, true sentiment. When you first heard this, what was you really thinking? Whose fault is it? I want to know your thoughts. Whose fault is it? Precious says she waited to see what craziness the men are gonna bring. Then she can label you a Derek Jackson. But go on, guys. Sorry, I got that petty bird in me. Who wants to tackle this? Don't all look at me at once. Jeff, thank you for looking to the skies. Go for it, Jeff.
Yo.
It's normally Precious, that's why. But yeah.
Honestly, it's like I was thinking the wife, to be honest. Reason being is, okay, what was wrong with the question of the husband asking what's home for dinner? I'm sure that maybe they've established something, a setup. Who knows? Maybe both of them are taking turns on cooking. I don't know. I don't know what the setup is, but what was wrong in the question? And then she says nothing. So he goes out to eat, basically. So now, because he's gone over to somebody else's house to eat something from there, okay, and it just so happens to be a woman, I'm not okay. And now you're saying, I guess I'm not going to cook for you because you got someplace that seems very petty. That seems very, very petty, if you ask me. And that just shows, if you're already if you have an inclination, oh, if he's going to do that, I'm not going to do this for him. Yeah, I would say that's the wife would have to take some accountability there. To be honest, that's what I will say. Jay, wait, Jay, why are you literally doing this?
I wasn't expecting you to say that, to be honest.
What? Bro, what?
You said you use a panda. That's what you said.
Oh, no, not even.
Yo.
Let me give my thoughts then. Obviously, the cooking part is the sensitive area, I guess, for ladies. And this particular lady, getting food off another woman. We don't know if she has a problem with the best friend. We know how those scenarios go. But we have no idea. So I'm trying in my mind to think of what's an equivalent for a man. So imagine if your wife calls you and says, "Can you come and fix this?" As men, we're supposed to fix this, fix A, B, C. We're supposed to use our hands and all these things. And we say, no, we're not going to do it for whatever reason. And then she says, okay, well, I'm going to call my best friend. Now, her best friend isn't a professional carpenter or whatever. It's just a guy that she knows. And he then comes over and starts fixing something. I mean, I think most men are probably going to feel some area of trigger or some, area of issue. If you don't, then I'll be concerned, especially in those types of dynamics. So I think where she's at fault is the pettiness. So always, no matter if it's a man or woman, pettiness is immature to me. If you understand the word petty, it's something that's insignificant. So that's how you're treating your relationship or your marriage. That's how I see the word, or that is the definition of petty. But that's just how I see when people input this into their relationships. But her saying, I haven't cooked anything, I don't see nothing wrong with that. It's not every single, okay. Some women have the strength to do that every single day. But come on, like it's there's going to be some days that let's get takeaway. Let's, Even if I don't want to spend money, don't worry. I'm gonna come. You rest. I'm gonna come back to the house and cook. It's not that deep. Just get it done. So for me, what is the trigger? Is him going to eat at his best friend's house, who is another woman, simply because the sensitivity of feeding my man or feeding a is an issue. You know, again, we can is an issue. The way there's personal jokes going on, but is an issue. So for me, my blame is on him. My blame is on him in terms of he didn't have the wisdom to know that's going to be an issue, and the fact that he did it means that he's done it before. So this ain't the first time that he's done it. This is just the first time she found out. And if this is the first time she just found out, there's an issue, because why did you keep that a secret then? But that's me, man.
Wait, but how do you know it was a secret though? That's the question. I'm like, because I could also. I'm just saying, how do you know it was a secret?
But this shouldn't be the first. If this is the first time she found out, come on, bro. You've been married for how long? You don't just go and do that randomly, bro. You have to be a certain level of comfortable to go and do that, which means it's likely something like that has happened before. So the question is, has she addressed that before, or is she only addressing it now? Because it wasn't mentioned that this is something that's been going on. She's only saying she has an issue because this is what's happened. This is what she's been made aware of, and I don't like it.
I agree.
And by the way, I'm also talking from marital experience. As you know, I was married. I did the same thing. Call up, have that communication. Don't worry, let's get takeaway. Easy solved. Easily done.
Yeah, that's true. So he didn't utilize his common sense to get takeaway if there was no food in the house. And that makes sense. So.
Yeah.
What is it?
And secondly, she could have been hungry herself. So you went to go to another woman's house to eat. What about your missus? Why did you have that in your brain? Are you stupid?
That's true.
I'm with you.
I didn't know we had Derek Jackson, Jason Anderson in the building. I don't know what the pandering is on another level. Did you get shaken by the last tussle we had? Because of the last conversation, they shook you. You can't come and have sense.
Because you're clearly on your trouble spirit right now. That's what's happening. You know deep down inside you're on your trouble spirit.
He could have settled this from saying, "Don't worry, babe, I got you. I got it." We wouldn't even be having this conversation.
Common sense, huh?
Hey. This is not a daddic situation.
Hey, Jason, the missus is watching, but you can blink, okay? Blink twice, brother.
Listen, this guy. Listen, I told you from those that missed it in the beginning. I said the type of person I am, I look from a counselling point of view. I don't care who's at fault. I look from a counselling point of view. What do we actually need to address? What he did in this scenario, he could have settled his missus feeling any funny way. True. Which means this is an ongoing issue that he hasn't really been, anyway, we can go off on a tangent, but yeah, let's leave it there.
This isn't about food.
Exactly.
This is about you willfully spending time at another woman's house.
Exactly.
Because I didn't.
Go, Charlene. There you go.
The woman didn't provide for you something that you needed. Now, I'm sorry. It's the wisdom of the married person that would say, I'm not going to go and spend time with another woman. I'm going to get takeaway, or I'm going to go home and we're going to get takeaway together because maybe she's hungry too. I'm with you, Jay. Don't have it, Jay.
Don't worry. So it's water off my back. I feel nothing. Don't worry.
Just like Derek Jackson, he feels nothing.
This is how you cause trouble. Because you know you didn't have to do that, Jeff. You know you didn't have to do that.
So this is what.
All of you guys, you're in a trolling mood today. I can see. It's okay. I can see. Thank you.
It's messy. I kind of like it.
Oh man, yo. I mean, to be fair, listen, look. I think because the thing is, it's clear, but it's not clear. So the example that's given, they added the fact the friend is a woman, but when they give the actual example, it didn't have the woman in, just said a friend. So I don't know if they've assumed the woman's in it or whether the actual example actually had a woman actually in. So that's why I was a bit like thrown aback, right? Because let's be honest, if it was a guy, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I thought,
Exactly.
let's be honest, we're not gonna have this conversation, right? But if it is a woman best friend, you know, I can see how this might cause me an issue. So let me start from the very beginning. The very thing was the brother done asked the wife, "Are you cooking anything?" Okay, all right. She done said she ain't cooking anything. Get yourself some food on the road. That's first and foremost, right? Now, here's my issue with the situation. Okay, if that's the case, communication should be made on. Well, actually, depends because I would say communication should have been had in terms of if I'm going to my best friend as a girl's house or whatever, I'm gonna let you know that, hey babe, I'm going to such and such's house to go and eat. Right at that point, that's what it is, right? Because you don't tell me already ain't cooked. So I'm a bit hungry, I'm a bit peckish. You told me I can pick us on the road. I'm gonna go to babe, I'm gonna go to my friend's house. You should already know my best friend already. So there shouldn't even be an issue. You already know who she is. I'm supposed I'm gonna at a sensible time. No late night sessions, whatever. I'm gonna at a sensible time. It's probably 6, 7 o'clock afternoon time, evening time, and that's when I'm going. Gonna eat some food and come back. And hopefully for me, that's the part where he might have failed, the communicational part and saying where he was going, because that can get a little bit techie. Now, after I come back and you getting stressed at the fact that I went to go and eat at another person's house, Abby, you can hold me to that. But Abby, there's no food on the table. So at this point, I think that we can be both to blame here, because I feel like you were kind of testing me to see what I was going to do. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is like yesterday's example where we spoke about this yesterday. It's like, you asked me a question, I end up going and get the food, and then when I go and get it, you're vexed about where I went to get it from. I haven't necessarily gone to cheat on anything, but I've gone to a friend's house. I probably should have just texted you ahead of time or called you told you where I was going. Up from that, there isn't actually an issue here. You know what I mean? There isn't an issue here. So for me personally, it's just a communicational piece. Just got to communicate that I'm going to get food at a friend's house. That is it. Other than that, I need you to just be chill a little bit. That's me personally. But I know somebody's from the background is watching me going, "Yep, he's a mini Derek Jackson."
Lack of communication on both their ends. The man slipped up for not telling his wife where exactly he was gonna go. Wife basically doing that whole test is bruv. Nah.
Can I just say this here? I agree the communication is rubbish, but we have to be aware, especially from certain cultures, there are women who will use food as a way to say that the wife is not good enough. People have tried to. When I was married, there were women who tried to do that. Oh, didn't your wife cook for you? Oh, didn't your wife cook your lunch? Oh. So this is where the wisdom has to come into it. Like, best friend or not, you have to have, as a man, I'm talking to you men, you have to have that wisdom. Like, and then this is all part of like what atmosphere are you setting in the relationship. And if she goes and does something similar, like I used the analogy about the repairman and etc., you got to address that too. Because we don't want that narrative to be set, because it's a dangerous one. So that's why I think the way I think, anyway.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. You don't want your evil to be spoken about, basically. You don't want to be put in a situation where it looks bad. The optics look bad. You go into somebody else's house and it just happens to be a woman. And if women nowadays are moving a certain type of way, the last thing you want is your character as a man, your husband, to come into question by that. So I can see that.
But hold on. This is your best friend. What are we actually really saying about the best friend?
My guy, is there a woman on
there's a whole conversation that's not being had about what you actually feel about the best friend. Because why are you tripping? You know who she is.
I don't
trust her, right?
I don't trust her.
Huh?
I don't trust her.
And that is the key conversation that's not being really had. The wife doesn't trust that best friend. That's just what it really is. Because if you come and say to me, babe, you know what, mechanic's closed, but I'm gonna go to my best friend to fix a car. All right, cool. I know who he is. Go and fix a car. Shoot, you're gonna save us a couple £100. I ain't gonna be vexed about it. Go and fix a car. Your wife can trust him.
Bro, it wasn't mechanic.
I'm not saying that.
I don't want to do it, which is a different narrative.
Oh, okay. So you're saying like, obviously the mechanic doesn't want to do it, and then she goes to her best friend to go and do it.
She asked me to fix it. I said I'm not going to. Okay, I'm gonna get my best friend to do it then.
And the best friend happens to be.
What's wrong with that?
Okay.
Okay, can I just say, Koja, that's disingenuous, because the reality situation is you have to take into context what is important to you, what you hold high in your identity in your marriage. You do not hold the ability to fix things, whether it's a car, putting up a shelf, all of these things is in high regard to your identity of what you bring to the marriage. Because if you did, you would feel a type of way about your woman taking thing to thing when you know you can do, even though you said no. So my thing is, in this situation, right, both people are being paid, because the reality of the situation, it's not about the food. There's an issue there, there's an issue there. Maybe she has issues with the expectations that he has on her, and she also has issue with his relationship with his best friend. Maybe at some point he has made remarks about the things that his best friend does that he really holds in high regards that maybe she hasn't always done, and that hits a nerve. But the thing about it is, if, for example, if you're in a marriage and your husband goes, oh, number one, why are you calling up your wife to be like, what's for dinner? What happened to, hi, how are you? How's your day? I'm going to be home soon. What why are you picking up the phone to say what's for dinner? Because the reality of the situation, it's also about initiative. If you're hungry and you have because guys always say women don't know what they want to eat. If you're hungry and you know what you want to eat, then say, oh, by the way, hey, I'm just checking, like, are you trying to cook anything for dinner tonight? Because I'm kind of feeling this. I'm thinking if not, we can order. That would feel a lot less confrontational than you going, oh, what's for dinner? Have you cooked? What do you mean have I cooked? Am I your uncle chef? The reality of the situation, that's a confrontational way to come about it. Let's just be real. Now, on the woman's side, if, for example, yeah, cool, you haven't cooked, he clearly wants something to eat, you could have been like, okay, cool, you know what, I haven't cooked, can't really be bothered to cook, I'm not gonna lie, what do you want to eat? We can order takeaway when you get back. Because the reality of the situation is, what's not happening in there is no one is deciding to diffuse the tension. No one is deciding to diffuse the tension. What they're doing is creating more tension. And so now he's like, all right, cool. You want to give me attitude? I'm going over to my best friend to go eat then, because I'm not going to try to spend money. Because really and truly, you could have just ordered the takeaway and come back. But you were like, no, I'm going to go to the best friend's house. Because clearly, you know she has a problem with that. So I'm going to go to the best friend's house. I'm going to go have dinner. And you're going to be annoyed about it. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to act coy and say, well, you did say I should go find food, so I went to go find food. That's what that transaction's gonna be, and it's just pettiness. It's not diffusing the tension. Because what you could have done in that situation, you could have just been like, okay, you know what? Right, I'm gonna go order this. Do you want anything? Come back. You have that. Then after things have calmed down, you can say, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if you were upset by me asking if you cooked dinner, but the way that you replied and the way that you answered me made me feel some type of way. When things have calmed down, you can then bring it back and say, I kind of felt some type of way, and for a moment there I did feel like doing something petty, but I just want to know what's like, do you feel some type of way that I asked you that? Are you upset? Like, did I offend you? That conversation could have happened. Even on her side, when he come back, she could have been like, so you went to go eat at your best friend's house. What was that about? Why didn't you just come home and order takeaway? We could have ordered takeaway. What's happening here? Because now I feel kind of offended. I feel you kind of hurt my feelings. I feel a little bit offended that you did that. There's no communication happening here. It's just pettiness for pettiness. Coach is giving me some looks, but it's the truth. It's pettiness for pettiness. It is. Because clearly it means something to her and it means something to him, because if it didn't, it wouldn't come up.
Yeah,
pressure.
Yeah, if I was just concerned,
because if it was me and somebody called me like, what's for dinner? I can't bother, but we can order takeaway. I mean, I feel.
But you didn't say that.
You're giving me.
You said
attitude.
go and find something on your own.
No, I'm not. I'm saying that's what I would have said. I would have said, I'm not trying to cook. I'm not gonna lie, but we can order something. But yes. I'm not. Her communication to him was petty, 100%. But the way he came at her in the very beginning was a bit confrontational. It was. Because he was like, did you cook for dinner? What?
No, that
Come
wasn't
on,
how it was.
Jay.
He was tired from the day of work, and he said,
Yeah.
what have you cooked for dinner? And she
Yeah,
said,
that's very
nothing.
presumptuous.
Go and
That's
find
very
something from the road.
Yeah, but that's very presumptuous. You're presuming like, what have you cooked for dinner? You could have just said, "Oh, I'm really hungry. I would love this if you cook." Okay, for example, he might have a favorite dish that she makes. Yeah, he could have said, "Oh, I'm really tired. Do you know what I would love if you would please cook me that beef lasagna that you do so well? That would be like amazing right now." Mate, she's running to the kitchen. She is. Am I wrong, Jay? Tell me I'm wrong. If you
No, don't go Jay.
that way,
Don't go Jay yet.
no,
Don't go Jay
if you
yet.
frame
Don't go
it,
Jay
if you
yet.
it's all about how
Don't
you
drug
deliver
Jay.
it. It's how you deliver it. It's about how you deliver it. If he had said,
That
I'm really tired, I'm so hungry. Do you know what? I would love if you made that beef lasagna that you usually make. You know what? Even if I will even help you because I'm so starving. I would love to have that because I know it's late. I know it's out of your way. I'll help you. Blah blah. That is a lot more of an accommodating way of delivering that message and going, "Hey yo, I'm really tired. Did you cook something? Have you cooked dinner?"
No, but he didn't say he said that. He said he from a long day of work, then called his wife.
Yeah.
Asked her, have you made anything for dinner?
Yeah, that's not the same thing. You're saying, have you made anything for dinner? You're presuming.
I'm even taking the fact that she's not even being paid. I'm even taking the fact that she's even just saying, I haven't cooked anything. There's nothing.
Yeah, but
Find
she's
something
being
on the road.
paid by saying, go find food outside. She could have said, "Oh, if you're hungry, I can order you something so that it's here by the time you come back home." Yes or no?
Okay. Yeah, she could.
She is being paid. She is being paid.
Okay,
But the way he came about it was confrontation.
No,
That's what I'm saying. A little bit.
I don't being confrontational. I don't
Sorry, go
think
for it,
he was
Charlie.
being petty. I don't think he was being confrontational. He asked his wife, "What's for dinner?" It really is as innocuous as that to me. I mean, she could be a housewife. She could have been home all day. She could have been on annual leave. Who knows? But you know, even if he went to his best male friend's house, I would prefer for him to come home. Come home. Quality time is one of my love languages. So, you know, if you're going to your best friend's house to eat, you're not just going to eat. You're going to eat, spend time. You're not just going to eat and go away. Do you know what I mean? You're going to go and eat and spend time. And that's the time that we could be spending together. Come home. Let's figure it out together. And let's get something to eat together. And also, it's a bit mummy-ish in regards to him not asking her if she's eaten. What little boys do, or what sons do, is they ask their mum for food, right? If there's no food, they make other arrangements, and they don't really think about anybody else in the household. That's what sons do, is what teenagers do, is what adolescents do. So it's a bit mummy-ish, that dynamic. I don't like that. But I mean, it's not even that deep. But yeah, that's my 2 cents.
By the way, Charlene, I love how you said, and I'm sorry, I'm the pettiness is right now inside of me about what I'm about to say. I love how you said, you know, love language, quality time. The husband love language was acts of service. He wasn't getting acts of service, so you know. Sorry, I just had to say that.
Oh, yeah. To me, this is very simple, man. It sounded like she was at home already. So if she was hungry, she's either made herself something to eat already, or if she wasn't hungry, she's sitting there twiddling her thumbs, chilling, doing whatever she's doing. That's cool, but she doesn't have to cook for him. But if she's sending him out to go eat somewhere else, then that's her mistake. I keep hearing, yeah, she wanted quality time and she wanted this and she never said that. She never said that for not even one time. She said, "Oh, you think I'm going to be in the kitchen? No, you go and eat somewhere else. Go get your food somewhere else. I'm not cooking for you." That was the energy, right? So, you know, if he said, "Okay, you know what? I'm not coming home to that. I'm going to go chill with my boys. I'm going to go talk about the game. I'm going to eat some food. And then I'm gonna come home. Then when he gets home, he's gonna get it in both barrels. What, you ate without me? You inconsiderate, this, that, you know, it's a trap. Basically, the way I'm digging this is, if she wanted him to come home and she wanted quality time, she could have expressed that. If she said, you know what, I'm home, there's nothing in the cupboards, why don't we go out to eat, she could have expressed that. And, you know, I think he was asking if she cooked because there may have been a chance that she might not have cooked. So it's not like she's chained to the stove or anything like that. He probably knows her well enough to know that cooking ain't going to be a thing. And as men, you know, we need to be self-sufficient so that if we come home, we can fix something as well. Like, why are you relying on your woman to cook? You might even cook better than her, to be honest.
Amen. Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I think it could have been communicated in a different way. Like, obviously, it was triggering to it to an extent where she was like, "No, go, you know, go eat before you get home," you know, or go. She's sending him out basically, and you know, if he wanted to get sunned that particular day and come home with his little sandwich or come home with nothing, you know, and she'll be on him then. She'll be like, "Raw, what? You didn't bring nothing back for me?" No, because you didn't ask for nothing. And if you did, and if he came back with his own meal, like his little meal for one, his little small pizza or whatever, I guarantee you she'll be all up in that food talking about, let me get some.
And then cooking at the same time.
Exactly.
Let me just say, yeah, that whole quality time thing, that was just me saying, like, if that was me, I would want him to come home, whether he was with a female best friend or a male best friend. If it's a female best friend, don't do it. But if it's a male best friend, come home anyway. My question to you, Coach, is the original question was about women testing men. So you believe that she was testing him to see what his response would be? Is that why
I think she was trying to see what he was going to do. I think you know when I'm asking you if you've cooked or not, and you tell me to go outside. I think she was being petty personally, but I mean, you tell me to go outside and find something along the way. You know what I mean? You know exactly what you're trying to say to me. You know what I mean? I ain't cooked. You know, and I'm not going to cook. So find yourself outside and get yourself some food. And I'm sure he probably was being. And my thing is this: he didn't go to a friend's house. He went to a best friend's house. This is the part that throws me off, because the title was best friend, which means there is some other issues we need to be talking about other than me going to her house. Because me going to a best friend's house, I'm really deep in that. I have a best friend as a woman. So I'm thinking to myself, like, if you not telling me the absolute truth about how you feel about my best friend, that's why it's coming up the way it's coming up, because I don't have none of that issue. I don't see my best friend that way. We're like boys, like, do you know what I'm saying? So I don't see the issue of me going to collect some food from her house. And my best friend can cook, so I'm gonna give me some traditional Ghanaian food, and I go and collect it, and I come home. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, like my thing is that maybe there's not enough context in the situation, but maybe I would be like, yo, I'll be like, babe, listen, I'd have messaged ahead of time and said, babe, I'm at my best friend's house. Do you want a little bit of something? Because she's, you know, cooked something. You know what I mean? I'll save something for you. That would have been my kind of thing. But if I could say that and I come home and I'm still getting blasted, I'm gonna look at you like you're crazy, because you said you didn't cook. Now, if you wanted something, I've told you I was at a best friend's house. I've got some food there. I'm gonna come home and I'll bring some for you as well. Then there is nothing to discuss after that. Do you know what I mean? Unless there is something else aside the food that's an issue, which is how you feel about the best friend in general. And the next line that she comes out with is that, fine, then I'm not gonna cook no more. Well, baby, you weren't cooking in the first place. So what you talking about? I don't know where you get your high horse from. You weren't cooking in the first place. This is why we're in a situation. You know what I mean? So, but jokes aside, you know, I think there's another conversation there. You know what I mean? But Jenny, I wouldn't feel no way. I wouldn't feel no way.
See, this is the reason why relationships are so hard. Because these innocuous things have now grown legs and they are walking in and out of your relationship, up, down, crawling on the walls, all kind of thing. Ciao.
They ain't cooking though, are they?
No, but do you know what I think? I don't think it was a test, Coach. I feel like you were really pushing this whole test thing. I honestly just think it was her being petty. I don't think it was a test.
That's fair.
I think it was just pettiness, because the reality situation, the reason this is built up now is because both now are being petty in some little form, shape, or way. She started it really, but because reality is, yeah, even if he could have gone to KFC, right, and got KFC. Now, if he just bought KFC for himself, she would have felt he could have got a bargain for one, like JR just let us know, right? He bought it for himself, and she would have still thought a type of way, because she like, "Raw, so you went KFC, you couldn't bring me nothing." Regardless, there was gonna be a problem. Whether he went to the best friend's house, went to get a takeaway, it was gonna be a problem because there was already some animosity there.
Exactly.
You know, and I think, and also we have to also kind of take into context, how did she even say it? Because this could have been over text. So now she could have said, "Oh, get something outside." It couldn't even. She didn't even mean it in that way. She could have just been like, "Oh no, I didn't cook. So yeah, you should probably just get something outside because I didn't cook." It could have been a casual, "Oh no, I didn't cook. So yeah, get something outside." And then now you've gone all the way to your best friend's house. Come back now. You haven't brought me nothing. That's another strike against you. When I wasn't even trying to be petty. So that's what I'm saying. So was it over the phone? Was it a text message? Because if it's a text message, tone can be off on text. So you could have read that, seen it, especially if he's come from a long day of work, he's tired, he's hungry, he's hangry now. So there's a whole heap of things that could have been happening. But I just think it's a lack of communication. It's been a little bit petty, depending on how it was said. But you know, I think when in doubt, just go home. That's my advice.
I would say to that, like, it depends on the dynamic of the relationship. Again, even the texting of itself, because you can say they were being petty, but sometimes your type of pettiness can also be a quote unquote form of manipulation and testing your man. Like, it's like someone would say, "Oh, if you love me enough, yeah, you take me out to the cinema, or if you love me enough, you do certain things, this, that, and that." So if you're saying, that's why you people should say what they mean and mean what they say. If you tell someone, "Oh, I haven't got anything," like, you might as well just go outside and, you know, get something to eat from there, and you didn't want him to do that, then you shouldn't have said it. So you being petty, basically just speaking in an emotional manner. You couldn't just say what would have been the more honest, healthy answer. You set yourself up when you quote unquote try to test the person that you're with. Well, I'll just say in this instance, just try Jesus. Don't try the person that you're with. Don't try it, because you may not like what the response you're going to get from that person. And then you want to complain after. Well, you said what you said. So what do you think was going to happen? You thought he was not going to do what he was going to do?
Yeah, you've got to be direct, man. You've got to say what you mean. Otherwise, these little tiny things become huge. So when she said, get something outside, just be direct. Get some drive-through. And whilst you're at it, can you get me some? Like, come home, bring the burger, eat the burger, cuddle on the couch. And now we have a nice evening. Do you get it? Like, rather than arguing and you're at your best friend's house. Are you not married? Why are you at your best friend's house? Come home and let's eat fries.
He likes to cook.
He likes to what?
You're playing dangerous games.
He likes to cook. Likes to cook a bit. Oh, what?
Listen. Do you know how many people that I know have had affairs or are now married to the best friend that they told you not to worry about?
Ooh.
Listen, talk about it. Talk about it, please.
Let's talk about it, because you're gonna expose all yourselves out here. Go on, talk about it. Talk about the fact that you are out sleeping with your best friends. Go on, expose yourselves.
It's called respect. And if you talk about testing, thank you. You kind of proved the point. He should have had the wisdom to know he's being tested. I say to guys quite often, ladies, you can say one thing today. It could be tomorrow, next week, next month, or next year, and you'll act like you never said that thing. And you'll put the man in a lot of catch-22 situations. So I say to guys, forget about that. Take her on board, that's fine. But understand the wisdom in the situation. For me, that should have been straight up. Okay, have you eaten? Like you're saying, Precious, have you eaten? If not, okay, let me get something. That could have settled everything. You know, even if he felt, okay, she's being a bit petty, do you know what I mean? The background we don't know, but they could have been arguing. There could have been an issue that could have fueled that. And she's writing in, not telling the full picture. That is very likely. But he could have settled it straight. Listen, I'll be honest. It may not like me when I say this, ladies. Ladies don't really want men who act like them. If they want to be petty, they don't want men who want to act petty back. They find that unattractive. They find that triggering. So as guys, we gotta be principled at times. Don't acquiesce. You know, that's our favorite word. Don't act in the same way, but we gotta stand our ground and say, all right, you know what? I'm not gonna act like that. I'm just gonna say to you, this is what we need to do. If you want to carry on being petty, then I know it's not about the food. I know there's something else that we need to address. So I'm coming home to address that. What you say?
Let me
Don't-
just say this, yeah.
Don't tit for tat. Respect that.
Let me just say this, yeah. As far as women go, I'm would probably be considered to be quite traditional, right? So I consider it something that I like to do. I like to be the cook in the family. You're going to your best friend's house to eat food. That's a that feels like a slap in the face to me. Someone else is feeding my man. Why are we doing this? That's how I feel about it, though. That's just me. No, find your ass home.
Yeah, but unfortunately, she sent him out. So you know, she didn't want him to be there. And the thing is, I think if he wanted to be petty, he could have come home and start setting up and make a nice smelling, tasting dish right there in front of her face, sat down and ate it to himself. That would be petty. But I agree with Jay King. One more question could have resolved this whole thing. If he had asked her, are you hungry after that?
Facts.
Like, okay, so boom. He initially asked, you know, have you cooked? Now, go and eat with your friend, or, you know, go get something else. Okay, are you hungry though? If she said yes, okay, I can bring home a little bargain bucket and we can both share it. Or when I get home, I can cook up something for both of us because you're hungry as well. Flip side of that is, depending on the mentality of the guy, he could also say, well, what you been doing while you've been at home? Like, you done finished work a couple hours ago and you're sitting there hungry belly telling me about I need to go eat somewhere else. Come on. Like, if you want something, I think you should be direct with it. And I agree. It is, because I'm guilty of this. I am 100% guilty of this. I am petty. Like, I am. I even told Kojo, I was telling Kojo and Jay and all of you guys, like, unfortunately, I've grown into a petty guy. So my mindset would be, if I heard that, it would be like, raw, okay, I'm going to go eat outside. But deep down, I know the right thing to do would probably be to say, raw, are you hungry as well? Okay, I can come home and fix up something, because I'm probably going to be the better cook anyway. Like, you know, if you ain't been doing it for long enough, you ain't got the practice, you ain't got the skills. So I'll come home and I'll show you how to cook up the place, and we can both, you know, enjoy the food and go to bed after that. But if you're afraid of the kitchen, like, it's all good. I've got that covered. You can practice and make your own meals. I'm a cook for both of us. I'm cool.
JR is being a real tourist right now. That's what he's doing. A real tourist.
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
I don't know, but the reality is some of you lot are dirty dogs. I can't go to a best friend's house and eat food without your mind slipping somewhere. I think this really just highlights the fact that some of you don't trust the opposite sex. I think that's just the reality of the situation here. You know, going to this best friend now should know you. I should have introduced this best friend to you. We damn right married. How you not trust this best friend? And we're still in a position now. Look, I'm sorry. Good old sis needs to be checked. Okay. All right. The cooking, you sent me outside. I'm resourceful. I went to a best friend's house. I got some food and I came back. Now, I think the only issue is there are a couple of questions that were missed. I should have told you where I was going. Number one. Number two, I should have asked, do you want some? That's it. You know what I mean? That's all that should have been done. And then we get there and you have some of the food as well. And we both laugh whilst we eat the plate of food that my best friend just made for us. So, you know what I mean? Like, it shouldn't be that big of a deal. We should be enjoying, you know what I mean, kicking and cackling as our hand has dipped into the soup, and where the soup is even dripping from the hand.
That wasn't the
And you're
scenario.
enjoying it, you're looking at each other and enjoying your best friend's food. And he said, "This is nice, is it not nice?" He said, "This is nice." I said, "It's nice, isn't it? Hey, darling, she can't really cook." You understand? Like, I need that kind of energy. Why are we slipping into the dark crevices of the nighttime and thinking about what madness I'm getting into? You know what I mean? Like, no.
Kojo, you're lying. You're lying. 'Cause
Huh?
you know you're gonna bring it up.
Even the voice.
I know you're gonna bring it up. Some part down the line, you're gonna make some little jokes. Little. You remember the time I had to go to my best friend's house for dinner? You wouldn't cook for me? That's what you're gonna say. Don't lie. Don't lie.
I'm not answering that question.
Is this a couple fight? I don't understand what's going on.
So, you don't want peace. You want problems always. You want it. Me, can't do it. Go to my best friend's house. When I go food at home that I can cook for my wife, hey, I won't do it. Not today. Whatever. No, not do it. I won't do it. Female best.
I'm playing. I think there should have been better communication. That's what I would say. I just think there should be better communication. You know, I think people should be communicating. You know, you let her know where you're going. That would have shown that you're not trying to be petty on purpose or doing it intentionally. And just say, "Hey, babe, is it okay if I just go to my best friend's house? I want to grab some food." You know what I mean? That's all it should have been, really. And then it's case closed. You know, if she then says no, you know, then we have another problem. You know, at that point, I ignore your message and I believe I didn't see it. But at the same time, you know, then, you know, you have to communicate effectively. And I think that is what was missing in the scenario. So I think both of them probably are at fault in some sense, because I think they each could have asked a further qualifying question to bring that roundabout way. So yeah, I was being a bit facetious, of course. I think if you just go there randomly and not say anything, it's going to look some type of way, of course, you know. And that. So yeah, any other thoughts on that before I got one last video which is actually very similar to that? So, but yeah, any last thoughts on that?
I'll add to this as well, right? In marriage counseling, they teach you that you have to be prepared for some of your relationships to change because of boundaries, because of respect, because of, you know, different things. So in this scenario, my thought process is, although it doesn't address it, if she herself was married with someone else, would the guy just easily go over there and just seek food? Because I would expect, no, invite your wife as well. So in that scenario, she's most likely, I'm not going to say she's single, but she's not married. You know, in that scenario, she's facilitating him in a way that she probably did before he was married. So to me, that's always going to be a concern, because if he's not going to do that, if she was taken, if she was married, to be honest with you, that means there was something wrong with that in the first place. And that's something where, I mean, where again, there's so much bigger conversation that we could have. But as Precious was saying in the beginning, to his wife, that could be an issue. She could not have, she might not think, oh, maybe this best friend wants my man, although quite clearly these things happen all the time, best friend or not. I mean, we joked about the best friend, you know, the best friend, you know, we call it playing your position anyway, but we joked about the best friend position that people play just to get in there. It happens all the time, right? But she could think, but why would you do that? That doesn't make me feel good doing that. And again, we have to go back to addressing, he needs to face his marriage and not just, even though they've got a great relationship, he needs to exercise a lot more wisdom. And to me, that's just down to what it is. Because how often is he going to do that? It's weird. You know, even in our culture, okay, and I'll give an example of me, right? With my ex-wife, her mum cooked a lot of the food. I felt away because I felt like, okay, that's a bit funny. Not that I had an expectation that she would, but I just felt funny because to me, I know plenty of women that would feel funny if any other woman is cooking food for her husband. You know, but she said, oh, it's not that deep, it's whatever, cool. So okay, whatever. So as Precious said, it could have been that deep to the wife. unfortunately, he failed the test, and they went into a petty party together. I mean, that test didn't need to happen. He could have reacted in a different way. But yeah, this to me is just basically what's happened.
All right, appreciate it. Let me bring another clip so you guys can play it. But shout out to all those who have besties of the opposite sex. Okay, all right. Shout out to those.
Have you ever,
All
have you ever fancied your best friend?
Huh?
Have you ever fancied your best friend?
No.
Has she ever fancied
Honestly,
you?
haven't. Huh?
Has she fancied you?
I don't think she has. So I think our relationship is one of unique. I am not saying that it should be a rule. This is an exception. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? It's an exception, not a rule. I cannot replicate that relationship. I cannot replicate some of the things that we've had to go through. So this is not a rule. I believe that most male and female relationships that are friendships, yeah, there is some of that hickory dickory, and there's an exception that some relationships don't have that. But like I said, it's not a rule I live by. Oh, men and women, no. I know. As for me, give me a chance. Yeah, I'm gonna fly by night, but not my best friend. No, I'm generally serious. Like, not my best friend. Like, and their boundaries have been very strict with how we behave. So, like, no sleep in the same bed, and that kind of stuff. Hey, please. Nope, cannot do that here. And no. So, you know what I mean? So, but if we're like friends, then yeah, you should fear, because if that's a friend, I'm probably gonna try it. Yeah. So yeah, don't let me go to a friend's house for dinner, because that ain't it. Okay. Yeah. By the way, let me play them.
I respect the boundaries that you've made with your best friend, Kojo. It's a good.
Oh, absolutely.
That's good.
Has to be. Can't say the same for you, Precious, though. All right, cool. Let's put the clip on. Let's play the clip.
I was at Chick-fil-A. I said I was going to get you a mac and cheese. You said what?
I'm okay.
What does that mean?
I said I didn't want any.
Okay. And now I'm home and I'm eating my mac and cheese. And what did you say?
Can I just have a little taste? I don't want the whole thing. I just want a little bit.
What do I do in this situation?
It is not that difficult. It's just a little taste. I didn't want a whole mac and cheese.
Did you also ask me if I got you fries?
Yes.
This is after you said you're okay.
Yeah, but I always want fries. So I figured I didn't have to say that, because I always want fries.
Okay.
Always.
Okay. Would you have eaten the mac and cheese if I brought it home anyway?
Yes.
Here, take a little.
Thank you. That's all I ask.
I was at Chick-fil-A. I said I was going to get you a mac and cheese. You said what?
I'm okay.
What does that mean?
I said I didn't want any.
Okay. And now I'm home and I'm eating my mac and cheese. And what did you say?
Can I just have a little taste? I don't want the whole thing. I just want a little bit.
What do I do in this situation?
It is not that difficult. It's just a little taste. I didn't want a whole mac and cheese.
Did you also ask me if I got you fries?
Yes.
This is after you said you're okay.
Yeah, but I always want fries. So I figured I didn't have to say that. I always want fries.
Okay.
Always.
Okay. Would you have eaten the mac and cheese if I brought it home anyway?
Yes.
Here, take a little.
Thank you. That's all I ask.
That's all she asks. Okay.
Bro.
Yes, Charlene, go for it.
No, go. Say what you say.
The words. Go for it, man. No.
Somebody on the video commented and said, I hate this shit. And I have to agree. I hate it. I also hate when I hear of women saying that they don't know what they want to eat. I know what I want to eat at all times with a lot of clarity. I don't understand it. And let me just say something. If the roles were reversed and I ask you, baby, you want something to eat? And you say no. And I get home and you want some of my food. we're gonna argue. So I don't like doing that to people, and I don't want it done to me. Say it with your chest. Do you want mac and cheese or not? And whatever your answer is, say that with your chest and mean it. That's it. Do you get
Yes.
it?
Say what you flipping mean and mean what you say. Stop with this mumble. Let me chill. Let me chill.
I feel like this conversation is one of those ones where I feel like it's just one side making a big deal out of something that is just a little bit like, what's the word, silly. Because the reality of the situation is,
Jesus is Lord. Jesus is Lord.
I knew he was gonna do that. I knew it. I could see in his eyes. I could see in his eyes that he was gonna do that. I knew it. He waited until I said something. Anyways, moving on. I think it's just a bit silly because the reality. I was watching Kev on stage, and he had this little bit where he talked about how he had learned over his how many years of being married. Look, if the wife says, "I'm not hungry, I don't want nothing," just get it anyway. Just get it anyway, because it's literally kind of almost like a way of showing that you're thinking about that person. That you said no, but just in case you change your mind, here, I got it for you anyway. Now, I agree. You should say what you mean and mean what you say. If you ask me if I want food, the answer is always going to be yes. That's just me. Even if I don't really want it, I'm going to say yes anyway because it's food and I love food. But I do think, yes, sometimes some women in the moment might feel like they don't really want food, and then they see that you've got food and they're like, oh, that looks kind of nice still. Let me taste. I feel like if your wife says, oh, I just want a little taste, you shouldn't really be getting all up in arms about your wife wanting a bit of one little spoon of your mac and cheese. Now, if she's saying, oh, you didn't get me fries after she said, no, I didn't want fries, then I understand the frustration. I can understand. But if she's just like, oh, I just want a little taste of your food, come on now. This is your wife. If you're really getting all up in arms about of her tasting a bit of your food, there's more issues at play here. It's just food. But I understand if you've asked somebody, do you want this? They've said no, you've gotten it, now you've gotten back, and now they're saying, oh, you didn't get nothing from me. Yes, completely understand why that's annoying. It's frustrating. It's a lot of things. But I just think, in general, rule of thumb, just get the food anyway. And just save yourself the headache. Women, if you want the food, just say you want the food. And if you said no, and the food hasn't come, take the L and keep it pushing. That's just all I'm gonna say. Just take the L and keep it pushing. That's it. Because if it was me, my pride won't let me say nothing. Because at the end of the day, I said no. So, just that's all I've got to say.
I think that this could come from the mindset that someone else's food tastes better than if you got it yourself. Right? Like sometimes you ain't even in the mood, you ain't hungry or whatever. You see someone eating something and you're like, right, you know what? I want some of that. So I can kind of see if that was going on, but trust me, I don't like people playing up in my food. I don't like people, you know, if I've offered you or I've said, okay, let me get something for you if you're hungry and you're like, nah, I don't want it. I'm not hungry, thanks. Yo, okay. So if I sit down and start eating and you're like, yeah, can I get peace or can I get some? Yeah, I would. I admit I'm gonna be like, nah, man, this is my food, bro. Like, come on, like. But you know, I can see why he gave it a mac and cheese because he probably had a separate one sitting somewhere and some fries and some other stuff. Like he was testing her in that store. Like he had a little stash away. He knew how she was. I'm gonna give him that. Like I think he had like a couple mac and cheeses stashed under the table or something, and decided to make a video just to show her, you know, how it can be. But you know how it can get sometimes. But yeah, like if you're not hungry, then you know I'm not supposed to read your mind and come to the conclusion that you really are hungry. That I'm going by what you said to me. And if you said to me, look, I didn't want nothing, I don't want, you can't be telling me about, yeah, I thought you would have got me fries because I always get fries. Girl, if you wanted fries, you could have just said what that you wanted fries. I would have got you the large if you wanted. But yeah, so I think it's a thing where, you know, naturally you smell some good food around you. You weren't hungry at the time. Now you change your mind. And now you want piece of your partner's food, and it probably tastes better than when you have it. And I've actually had someone say that to me as well. Like, the reason why they would do that is because they feel like my food would taste better than theirs. It's just a psychology thing. So
you internalize. You know, I just think to myself, I think the worst thing is knowing that I've sat down, I've plotted, and I've, you know, began to surmise how this food is going to taste in my mouth. I've got maybe 6 wings or some macaroni and cheese, and I've already started to imagine how the taste of the macaroni and the cheese together is going to touch the palate of my tongue. And I've already imagined how many forkfuls that will be. You know what I mean? So when I asked you, do you want some of the macaroni and cheese? Now I have to calculate you into the situation, which means I'm going to calculate my joy in how many bites I'm going to get. But if then you tell me no, and I get home and I'm starting to bite into it, and I realize that I had 8 bites of the macaroni and cheese, but now because you want to have a bite, I'm going to have 5. The 3 that I was really hoping for, where I was going to really enjoy this meal and enjoy it and savor each bite and taste, I've done at 5 that means I've rushed my meal now, because I should have taken it a bit more slowly, knowing that you would have had 3 bites. You get what I'm saying to you? I need to plan for this situation, because the food is not the food, it's the enjoyment. It is the chemicals that are released as I'm eating that food. It's the dopamine that wants to rush from my brain as I'm enjoying that meal right there and then.
Preach, brother.
And you decide that you now want to do a flip and you now want to come and eat my food. What you're really saying is, I don't want you to have your dopamine rush. I want to take some of your dopamine rush. I want to have it myself, because she gets out the fact. Let me see if he's going to share a bit of his food. It's not about the hungry. They're not even hungry. They don't even want a piece that they want to taste. They're not even hungry at all. They just want to see if you can share a little bit of their food, because it makes them feel good knowing that they can take a little bit of your food. Oh, he loves me. He cares about me. I do. But what I need you to do is open the mouth that you're using to eat my food with and tell me ahead of time that you want some. And even if you don't want to finish it, that's okay. Okay, that's all right. You leave it on the side for me. But I'm saying that I personally don't like that. Don't do that. Because actually, for me, food is really an experience, but it's also something that I find joy in. You get what I'm saying to you? Like, I've got my food and I've sat down and I've done the whole, man, I can't wait to eat this food. And I pull myself in. I get myself ready. I've got my special fork that I love to eat my food with, and I put it into the bowl, right? And as I take the first bite, I'm like, oh, man, work was tough today, but this is slapping. And I start thinking about all the things that's happening in my life that particular moment. Remember, I think I have 8 bites, but now you come along and you're like, can I have a bit of macaroni and the cheese? And we know your 1-piece bite is not a 1-piece bite. It's a, that tastes good. And before you know it, the bites that I should have been having, that I should have been enjoying my dopamine rush with, has now been stolen in this moment. So I think personally, it's a very selfish thing to do. That's what I'm going to say.
Wait,
and that's what they wrote.
Because you got one little thing in your deal. It's when you're about, literally, you've literally set the table. You're playing your Ghana tunes. You're literally sitting at the table. And next thing you know, when you're just about to take that little bite, your mouth hasn't even made connection with the food.
Can I have some?
That you. That's when she.
My thing is, if you know that's what she's gonna do, just get her food. Okay? All of this tussling that you're doing back and forth, narration, dopamine, 8, 10 bites, you're doing a lot. If you know she's gonna do that, just get her food and avoid the hassle, avoid the headache. You're just making it hard for yourself. That's it. Okay? That's it. You're making it hard for yourself. Just get her the food and live in peace. My brother, live in peace.
Listen, in peace. She wants to take my peace.
Yes, Jason. Did you want to say something? Derek Jackson, Jason.
Yeah, he is in the social media jail right now, isn't he? Not me, though. Do you know what? All of you are saying exactly what it is. I think, Precious, you just have to accept that most men find this irritating and will always find it irritating. Because we do love our food, as Kojo said, the way we identify our happiness, we can't wait, we're ready to tuck in, and it's annoying. But as Kev on stage is basically saying, and there's plenty memes of this anyway, by the way. I have to understand, all right, let me just get an extra one anyway. Or before I even have my first spoonful, let me give it to her. But my reasoning is to do with what Kojo said. But I'll say in a different way. The romanticization of manly sacrifice is steeped into the ability for a woman to feel loved by that man. That's it. So those small things that you might say, they're nothing. Well, hold on a minute. Because if he doesn't do it, it's these small things that a lady might use to feel, oh, he doesn't love me then. Oh, he doesn't. Oh, like talk to a friend. Oh, my man always gives me the first bite. My man always buys me this and that. This is where now it gets silly. So for me, again, that's guys, it's irritating, but we do have to understand where it comes from, and that's true. However, it goes back to the point of why do women test men? Only you can answer that. We're just the recipients that have to understand what it looks like and how we need to respond. But these are frustrations. But yeah, we can make a joke about this, but these are frustrations that shouldn't create an argument, by the way. This shouldn't jeopardize relationships. But it's something that we can all laugh at because it speaks to the bigger picture. And so, in fact, if I double back, why do women test men? It's because women, especially because of what they've been through in recent times, they need to feel that this man is really who he say he is and has the capacity to love me in the way that he says he can. Can it go too far? It often does. But that's just where we are in today's society.
Mm-hmm. That's a great explanation, Jay. I can't even lie to you. But I need the ladies to not be trying to use us as a motive for sacrifice. Look, the sacrifices get yourself a meal. Okay, it's on me. Get yourself a meal. You understand what I'm saying to you? Let's not do the sacrifice like that.
I don't think we test you guys though with this. It might be just, I think usually it's a case of they weren't hungry or they didn't, the taste buds didn't get tantalized until they started smelling your food. And then they were like, I actually am hungry. I don't think it's like this test thing. But yeah, I always know what I want to eat.
See,
I've heard countless girls say that actually was testing the man.
I think a lot of the times if it is a test, it's maybe because there's an element that they're missing and they're thinking, I'm not getting this. How do I get this? Let me test it to see if it's available. And I guess maybe it's that thing of thinking, are you thinking for us in mind? That's what it feels like. It's like, are you thinking about us, not just yourself, but are you thinking of us as together? So if I get food, she gets food. If I do this, you know, those elements of kind of thinking as a couple in mind, because it makes you feel included. It makes you feel thought about. It makes you feel considered. And I think that's really what the crux of it is. Now, it's not all the time. Sometimes it is, as Charlene said, yeah, I saw your food, it looks kind of nice, let me have a little taste. But sometimes it can just be that element of wanting that person to show that they're thinking about you too. In all their decisions, you're included. Especially if you're talking about marriage as well. Like I think that's what it is. Even in those small, tiny little things of me getting some food for myself. Actually, yeah, let me get food for her too, because she's my wife, innit? Let me just get a little something from the corner shop or something. So I think that's what it is. But I understand the frustration is annoying. I know for me personally, if I've already said no, I'm not gonna double back because my pride just won't let me do that. But that's why I feel like you should just say yes. Thank you. You should just say yes, because I know if I said no to my boyfriend and then he went and got food, and then came out with food, and then I'm just looking at, I'm just thinking, oh, sure, suffer in silence, because I'm not trying to have this whole back and forth discussion. But you said you didn't want. Because then I'm like, I have no leg to stand on because I did say it. But also, you should just Listen to Jay. Just get the food. Just get the food.
Because you're principled. That's why, Precious. You're principled, and the rest of your clan are not. That's the problem. You're principled. You realize that I should hold shame and let the pride take hold and leave me just keep quiet because I said no. That's that's what we need from the rest of your clan. But the rest of your clan are shameless. They will open their mouth and say something. That's the problem. Jay, I'll go for it. You say you want to say something.
Listen. Both of these last videos could happen on the same night, and that's the unfortunate thing. You know what I'm saying? You might ring your girl and be like, "Yo, babe, did you cook? Now, don't eat outside." Like, you come home with something, and you're sitting there with a screw face.
You're not wrong.
And you're like, raw. Like, just as you're about to tuck into that bite, she's like, "Can I get some? Or you're gonna have that all for yourself? You're not gonna share it? Selfish, right?" And then let's be real. One of the worst things that can happen is she decides to finish your food, bro, that she said she didn't want initially. Like, that's when you really be taking liberties.
There's nothing more painful than that, bro.
Nothing more painful than that. Like, you have to leave her some and be like, okay, yeah, you might as well finish the rest, babe. That's when you're going to bed upset. So I think there is an element of testing whether you're generous. Like, she knows that she knows that you have your heart set on filling your belly with this good food, right? The old adage is, the way to a man's heart is through his stomach, right? So, she ain't gonna cook. She don't want to cook. She don't want nothing to do with that. You go out and find something else. Boom. When you bring it back now, she wants to see how generous you are with the food. I think that's the test. Like, if you're desiring and you're hungry and you want that so badly, are you willing enough to break her peace now that she wants some, now that she's changed up? If you don't, then you're in for a long night, bro. You might as well sleep on the couch. But if you do, you might have to just bite the bullet and be like, you know what? Like, here, have some. You might be screwing a little bit because you wanted it all to yourself and she said no, but ultimately you have to make the business decision what's actually best for the harmony in the relationship.
You know what's best? Telling her from the jump, don't do that because it's not going to happen. I'm going to eat the food. You learn your lesson. Go for it.
I was just going to say, if I was going to look for generosity in a man, it wouldn't be about whether he was going to give me his food. I don't want his food. I want my own. But if I was going to look for generosity, does he pay for dates? I'd look for it that way. I want to look for it for him sharing his plate of food with me. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but that's good and everything, but she didn't say she wanted to go out on a date either. She just said she ain't cook, and he has to look.
I'm not related to that. All right, JR.
I got a question, and this is mainly for the ladies, right? Where it applies, and for the chat too, where it applies, because it's not every woman or every scenario. And I think, Cole, you did a live on this, but I didn't get to see it. Why is it hard for women to say what they mean? And why is it so easy to assume that the man can read your mind?
I think where women go, I'm probably more direct than most. But I will also say that I think we have been programmed to not be direct because we're working against the image of the nice girl. Nice girls are not direct, they are polite. Even if it means that you're passive aggressive or you're self-effacing in some way, we are conditioned and programmed to be nice before being direct. And so that interferes with communication a lot, where we don't say what we really want to say because we may get labeled as being the B word or at worst, or a bit of a cow or whatever. And so we have been programmed to kind of skirt around things, including speaking about our feelings. What do you think, sis? Fresh?
It's a principled woman. She will agree with the boys.
I think I do feel like women have definitely been socialized into not being as direct. I think also we overanalyze things too much sometimes. I think we overthink about how do I want to say this, how do I deliver this, how do I want it, because we're thinking too much about the image of what this is going to portray in that moment of time. Sometimes it is just it being indecisive. Sometimes it is just, I said something in the moment, I didn't really think about it, or that's how I felt at the moment. But now I look back at it and I'm like, maybe I should have said whatever. But I do think, there is an element of not feeling comfortable in speaking how we're feeling, because we're second guessing what it is that we're feeling. Where there's no, sometimes, if you're feeling a certain way, and that might just be experiences, because maybe people along the way, when you've said how you felt, somebody's always been like, yeah, but, or that doesn't make sense, or why are you talking about that, or a little bit of gaslighting going on. So you second guess what it is that you're feeling, and sometimes you don't stand in what it is that you're saying in that moment in time and being direct about it. But it sometimes will come out in those little things, like whether or not you want food, or because you don't want to feel like you're putting someone out of their way, or you're making them have to do something that they don't really want to do. You kind of almost want the validation that they want to do it for you, rather than you've asked for it, so that's why you got it. You want to feel that you got it because they wanted to do it for you, not because you asked for it and that's why you got it. And I think that it's a bit of a warped thinking, because the situation is, if you want something, you should ask for it. If you don't get it, then you can move accordingly. But I think sometimes we think that men are thinking about it in the same way we're thinking. So if you've asked a man something and he said something, you're thinking, okay, but then what does he mean by that? Does he mean that this, or does he mean this? And you don't actually ever ask him to clarify. You just kind of go on a tangent in your mind, and then it might come out in another way. So, because I guess kind of going on with what Charlene said, it's that nice girl persona. If you don't want to be seen as the girl that asks too many questions, or wants too much clarification, or is trying to get to the root of what it is that you're thinking, and or almost don't want to feel like you're interrogating the person, because sometimes you get labeled as an interrogator if you're asking for too much clarification. So I think it is a lot of just image. It's wanting to not feel like you're a burden on someone, and then also not having the inner gravitas to really feel concrete in what you're saying, and to mean what you're saying, and to say what you mean. But that's not for everyone. I don't think all women are like that. I think it is just more of a low. I think it's a symptom of not being validated early on in childhood, and also having a little bit of self-esteem issues, and not trusting in what it is that you're saying or what you're feeling, because also realizing that it can change, but in that moment you should trust in what you're saying, what you're feeling, and say it directly and mean it. So yeah, that's what I think.
I'd also like to just add as well that I think for some women, this doesn't apply to everyone, but for some women, they are afraid that if they are really direct with what they really think, then is he going to stay? Is that man going to stick around? And so they kind of edit, they filter themselves, and it always comes out in other ways. There's, what you're thinking and feeling is always going to come out in another way. It's either going to come out in a direct way or in a passive aggressive way. It's always going to come out eventually. But yeah, there is that fear of abandonment there as well.
Charlene, can I also, you said women find it difficult being direct in terms of how they feel when it comes to expressing their emotions towards men. Do some women find it difficult being diplomatic about their approach? Being able to speak in a balanced way to tell a guy how I feel, whilst at the same time restricting their emotions in that moment, so that way it doesn't come across as being disrespectful? Do they find difficulty in that as well?
Just to clarify, when I was talking about direct communication, I was talking about just being able to express what you fully mean. In regards to your question, it depends. And I'm sure Precious can chime in here as well. It depends on how emotionally mature the woman is in her expression. I mean, is she used to expressing herself emotionally? Is she prone to outbursts? Is she the kind of woman to say ratatatata and just blast your head off when she's got something emotional to say? It really does depend. I'm quite a pensive person, so I don't tend to overflow with the outbursts, you know. But that's just me. But I don't know. What do you say, Precious?
Yeah, I would agree. I think, you know, it's more of an indication of how you deal with emotional situations and emotional conversations in the first place. I think, and also how you deal with anger and how you deal with feeling unseen and unheard in that very moment, and how you and what you're taking from that interaction. I think sometimes, if, for example, as a woman, you've come into the situation and you're saying, this is how I feel, you know, this and this and this, and it's not being regarded, that can be a trigger for some people. And then it's that kind of, if you're used to then having this outburst to try and feel that regard of what you're feeling, that conditioning can come up. But it can also go the other way, where you can shut down if you're not feeling regarded. You can say, okay, cool, that person's not really taking into consideration how I'm feeling, so I'm just going to shut down. And sometimes passive aggressiveness then comes and follows, because you're still hurt. You haven't had the opportunity to actually express what you're feeling, but you've shut down. So it's either you shut down completely, and now you become a bit passive aggressive by just being silent. But I think in general, if you have a healthy way of communicating your emotions, you should be, I guess the ideal instance is that you're able to say, this is the action you did, this is how it made me feel, I would like to talk about it and come to a resolution of how we could do this. It shouldn't include you calling someone out their name. It shouldn't include a high level of disrespect. I also want to asterisk it with what disrespect looks like to the other person. Because sometimes men can be very highly sensitive to what they deem as disrespect. And it's not really, it's just they are very, very, very sensitive. But that's not to say it doesn't happen. But they shouldn't never be a situation where you're calling your partner an idiot, stupid, or any derogatory terms, or calling them out of their name, or saying, you know, you're a waste of time, or all of these things that you're saying in the heat moment. That should never be. There should never be an attack on the person's character. It should just be, this happened. It made me feel I feel some type of way. It should always be I statements. I feel, I think, and it should be a situation where you are trying to clearly and directly say, this is what I feel, this is what you did, this is how it made me feel, let's talk about this. Because it's a direct way of having that communication. It's not always easy, because sometimes, in the moment you feel disrespected, you feel upset, you feel all of this, you might be being triggered. But it, as Charlene said, it is a level of emotional maturity to be able to say, this is what I'm feeling right in this moment. This is how this action made me feel. And this is how I feel. And then it's in the core of your partner to, first of all, acknowledge. You don't have to agree, but you really should be acknowledging. And acknowledging with your big, big chest by actually saying, okay, I understand how you feel. and that's not what I intended to do, but this is what I think, this is what I feel. And that's how you're able to have a healthy bit of communication. But sometimes you don't always get the validation in that situation, and that triggers somebody else. But again, you should be able to have the emotional maturity to self-regulate in the moment. But it isn't always easy. But both sides, yeah, should be self-regulating in the moment, and you shouldn't be bordering on, because emotional outbursts are not necessarily an evil thing. I don't want to villainize that, but it's when they cross the line to disrespect that it becomes the issue of when you're insulting or degrading your partner. That's not where we should be going. You can have an emotional outburst because you know people feel things, but yeah, we don't want to be getting into the point where we're now attacking our partner, you know. Kojo is, I don't know what Kojo is doing. He's smiling at his phone. Clearly, he's on Instagram DM. Jackson has come out full force. Alright, cool. We see you, Kojo. We see you.
No, just making sure people said they don't want no food, but they want some food. You know what I mean?
Can I just say one more thing? Yeah.
Yes, you
this
can.
whole
Charlie.
this whole thing about being a woman and saying what you mean. It's happened to me once, just one time in my life, where because I was being direct and because I was saying what it is that I mean, I was interpreted by this particular guy as being quite sassy. And it really wasn't. I was just being direct and I was saying what I mean. But to some guys, I guess that is quite, I don't know, affronting. Is that a word? Affronting? No. But it's only happened. It's only happened one time, thankfully. And to be honest with you, I would classify that particular gentleman to be a really nice guy, but quite immature emotionally. So that's perhaps why it happened. But I think that there are some women that kind of live in fear of that. Even in the workplace, you know. I don't want to say too much. I don't want to be too much. I don't want to. And we edit ourselves a lot. And we don't want to do that no more.
I think on the flip side, there are also women that will tell you straight up what they're feeling and what they're thinking, and sometimes they go overboard in doing that. All right, so there are some that, you know, they're not necessarily afraid to speak their mind at all. Some will let you have it with both barrels as soon as they get the opportunity. But you know, if you're hypersensitive, if you're very much someone that doesn't like to be called names or anything like that, then you shouldn't be doing it in the first place. So I think it's going to be an issue whenever you I just saw Charlene. I think it's going to be an issue when someone speaks their mind without any filter. Like you definitely need to be cognitive of what you're saying and also how it may be received. You know, if the moment you start getting away from that, if there's an imbalance in that, if you just think you can speak your mind freely and be free of any, you know, any shade or any comebacks, then that's where you have a problem, because you can't. And also you can't dim your light down to the point where you don't say nothing, because then you get trampled all over. So you have to find a balance, and that's my take.
Yeah, I also want to say that I think everybody, whether it's a man or woman, you should have a right to say what you need to say. But freedom of speech is not inconsequential speech. There's either going to be a positive or a negative consequence depending on the person that receives it. As long as you're being emotionally intelligent about what it is you're saying, you just have to be mindful of the person you're dealing with, and also make sure the person you're dealing with is reciprocating that same energy that you give, essentially, if it's respectful. I would say that because the whole idea of it, you know, the video clips, I think it just stems from testing. And you ladies more or less were talking about the fact that if people are I don't know, not being validated. There's a level, I guess, insecurity that is being shown in the relationship or whatever dynamic it is. So you want to feel like you matter. You want to feel like you matter towards the man that you're dealing with. I think, obviously, you've already said it. You just have to have a healthy communication about it. And just going through these type of tests, sometimes the guys, it can be very annoying when you're maybe, especially for guys on our end who are trying to do the right things, and our love or our patience or something is being tested. Nobody wants to be in a relationship where already you're dealing with all sorts of challenges as is, whether it be through your work, whether it be through your friends or your family, and then you got someone doing these micro tests or major tests, depending on what it is, at home. That could be annoying at times.
Let me add this as well, yeah. Even based off what JR is saying, but I'll say something else as well. See, the idea of tests, right? I think we have to also understand there's lots of women who will say this directly and indirectly, i.e., I want a man who can handle me, right? Handle the way that I talk, handle the way that I am, you know. And if I'm going to test him knowingly or unknowingly, if he falls short, I'm going to have a problem. But if he doesn't respond to me in a way that's a problem, that means he's passed the test. So even though we're doing things in tongue in cheek when it comes to tests, these things happen all the time, and some women don't even realize this is actually what they're doing, and it comes out in their terminology. The second thing I do want to address is, growing up, I have realized that women tend to address each other in a particular way, and that way can be wild, but they can be best friends the next week, you know, or the next day. But there's a difficulty where you speak to a man in that way. And this is where the difference is between men and women. It doesn't mean men are more this or less this or same thing for women. It's just understanding the difference. And it's the same way in terms of men, how we talk to each other. We have to learn, no, we have to address a woman in a different way. And I think that's also part of where the issue comes, because in these types of conversations, I'm always careful to put this out there where some of us, how we speak is triggering. How we speak, and maybe sometimes, I mean, we've seen in the chat today, some people speak with a certain venom, but will die on the cross and tell you that they're not. So we have to, you know, not just sit on the fence of, you know, it's the other person's the problem. You have to understand, no, generally, how do we speak? Where is this coming from? Am I used to speaking with a negative vim? So that now I've realized it, I have to really think about, how am I going to speak? Is this going to be triggering? That's, you know, number one, that's part of healing. Number two, that's part of relationships where you need to understand how can you actually work together. You know, to me, that's part of life. And that's why I want to throw that out there, simply because we all have to have that conversation at one point or another. You know, like, for example, Precious, you clearly said to us on, you know, behind the scenes, and, you know, what type of man that you want. So the way you talk, you know, we take the mic, rock girl, boom, 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 and all that type of stuff, right? But you don't want a man who's just gonna fall. Right, you don't want that. You want a man who's gonna give it to you back, not in a negative way, but okay. Kojo's fixing his shirt. He's doing a lot. Okay, there you go. By the way, in the chat, yeah, I'm gonna ask you this question before I carry on. Do you think Kojo and Precious would work? Answers in the chat now. But let me carry on. But that dynamic is something to discuss, and I feel like definitely women are more sensitive to that because of their identity, because of, like you're saying, being told that they can't express themselves, being told that they're not good enough, etc. So they're always going to be more sensitive to someone saying how you speak is not okay, especially if other people in the past haven't been honest. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there because it's a conversation that a lot of couples do actually have, where they have a problem in general with how one person or how they both might address each other, but one person or both people can be so used to doing it, they don't know how to be any other way, even though they do actually need to change.
I will say though, I think it's important to just always be tactful. Okay, don't even do that because I see your face already. Don't try it. I think it's always important to be tactful. because I know you're trying to cover me and call me a road girl. I'm not. What I just think.
It's not serious.
No, I'm joking. No, but I think it's important to be tactful because I know, for example, I'm quite blunt, so I can be quite blunt sometimes, but I'm always tactful. So the thing about it is that it's really it's really important to be tactful in your communication because you don't want to alienate the person that you're trying to communicate with and you're having a conversation with. So even in the heats of those moments, you have to really, you almost have to talk out of love, and you have to talk out of that compassion of like, I'm not trying to hurt you, I'm just trying to say how I feel, and focus it more on how you're feeling, because that prevents you from being venomous with your words, because sometimes it might come across as venomous with your words. So, and that's why I've always said it's important that you have somebody who's got a bit of conviction and has that ability to draw their boundaries. Because if, for example, I'm being blunt and you feel some type of way, instead of you getting all passive aggressive, I need to be like, I don't know, you're making me feel some type of way a little bit, because then I can at least adjust what I'm saying. Because sometimes bluntness doesn't always come across as comfortable for certain people. It's not necessarily that it's really disrespectful. It just is a bit, what's the word? It's a bit like grating, you know? It grates you a little bit. It's not disrespectful, but it just grates you a little bit. So, and that's where you have to have that ability to be able to tactfully say, your bluntness is grating me a little bit. And do you know what I mean? Otherwise, you become passive aggressive and you're feeling something. It's a whole thing. But I agree. You always have tact. Delivery is important. Semantics are important. I hate when people say that's a semantics. No, semantics are important because semantics change the meaning of the sentence. It changes the delivery, how it's hitting, how it's landing. And for me, words are important. Words affirmation is a love language for me. It's very important. What you say is important. So you be careful what you say to me because it's important. Just like I'm very, very careful what I say to people, what I say to my friends. You'll never catch me having a full-on argument with friends. I'm calling out their name and expect that we're going to be friends again. No. You have to be very careful what you say because sometimes you can say something you can't come back from. And you don't want to do that. You never want to do that. So you have to just really be very careful with what you're saying. And I think that's something that everyone should learn, whether it's advocating for yourself or communicating with someone else. Words are very important. So.
And I'll just add from what Precious was saying as well. Sometimes it can be just to test your patience or your resilience, and also test your character, and also to see how you respond. And then, depending on how you respond to the pressure, then or if they've broken your character or even broken your resilience, sometimes it can be seen as a victory that they've got one up over you. So yeah, just thought I'd add that too.
Cool. Thank you, guys. We have reached the 3-hour mark, so time is done. Listen, it's been a great conversation. It's been really appreciative. All right, we have empathized and explained the behavior of Derek Jackson and the woman in the videos as well. And it's good to see we had two different reactions. And that's me being petty, calling that out. But you know how I am. I'm a little bit petty as well. I'm working on that Jesus part of my life. But no. I honestly, it was a really good conversation. I actually enjoyed it. Like, it was fun. And we got to have a bit of back and forth as well amongst each other, with the audience as well. And these are the kind of good conversations you have. And I love the conversation about the food and stuff like that, because I think it is real life situations that come about in those kind of conversations. So really do appreciate the honest feedback as well, from the ladies and from the gents as well on this. But listen, we're gonna pop off tonight, guys, and we'll be back tomorrow. Yes, Derek Jackson part 2 will kick off, and then we'll do a live on that as well, which means we get to review that, and then I think we'll be back on Friday as well, because We have another live to do. But until then, guys, okay, all right, we are gonna bid you adieu. Precious is in the jungle. She is fanning like she's not in England right now. She's fanning like she in Houston, okay? Because baby, it's not that hot where I am.
I cannot handle Houston. My room is really hot. My room, right, when it's hot, it's hot. When it's cold, it's cold. I'm out here in the trenches, okay? Let me fan in peace.
I'm sure you can handle it.
Wait, say that again?
I'm sure you can handle. I mean, you came up.
All right, guys.
We can't handle Houston. Okay?
Bye.
Wait, one thing.